Good evening, Danvers, and welcome to our September 5th Select Board hearing. Before we go into the agenda and the pledge, I'd just like to mention we're going to take some items out of order with the permission of my fellow members. We're going to take number 10 as 2. 5 is a scratch. 7 becomes 10. And Kathy will keep us on board if she will. Maureen, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Maureen. Can we have a approval of the minutes from the August 13th meeting, please?
approval of the minutes of August 13, 2024, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Abstain?
Abstain, thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask the manager to report to us on various items of interest, because I think you probably all have heard that he may be leaving us, but I'd like to hear it from him directly. Steve?
Hey, Mr. Chairman. I sent an email out to each of you a couple weeks ago and then followed that up with phone calls to let you know that after several months of consideration and discussion with my wife and colleagues and friends and people that I trust, we decided to throw in for the Lexington Town Manager position. It was not an easy decision. This fall will mark 10 years that I've served the town of Danvers. I have enjoyed the heck out of that time. We have accomplished a great deal as a community and as a board and as an organization, things I'm very proud of. But we had decided this was an opportunity we wanted to explore. I worked my way through the process, and the board voted 5-0 last night to make a conditional offer of employment to me. I'll be meeting with them next week. At this point, it is a conditional offer, but it is something that I'm excited about. If I'm being honest, I'm a little intimidated by it, but I'm very excited about it. And I met this afternoon with the chair to talk about open items and timeline and transition and things that are important to me in terms of leaving things squared away and in a really good place. So nothing is official yet, but they did make an offer last night. The Salem News did run an article today, and so I wanted to acknowledge that up front. And while I have the floor, just extend my deep appreciation to this board and the board that I've served prior to this board, and also the board that hired me for the opportunity to serve this important role. It's been an honor and a privilege every day. And I'm not going anywhere yet. We still have work to do, but I wanted to. The chair and I talked about starting the meeting with that, just to put it out there. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve, and good luck in your new position. We certainly have a lot of work ahead of us to replace you. It won't be easy, but I would ask to start the process that can we secure a recruitment firm to manage this process with an RFP so we can get rolling?
Absolutely, and I think I had the honor prior to COVID of working with the Mass Municipal Association and talking to select boards across the state in terms of how to approach that process. So I would make 2 recommendations. One is we at the staff level can get an RFP process started, and then I would ask you as the chair to be deeply involved in that process, because that is a process that will extend beyond my remaining time with the town if I transition out. So we can certainly initiate that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And how long do you think it'll take to get people answering back and we can interview them?
I think that would easily be accomplished in the next month or so.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments from board members? No, thank you.
I'll ask. Thank you, Steve, for what you've done. A couple questions. So you say it's a conditional. So naturally, I'm assuming probably subject to confidential information, background checks, things like that.
Contract negotiation.
Yep, thank you. And when would your last day be?
We talked about probably October 25th being right around the 6-week mark, which felt they would like somebody in early November, and that gives me time to work with the chair and with staff to get things situated in a good place, because it's important that it be a smooth transition for the good employees who are still here doing their job.
Okay. And with that said, you know, a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about on the agenda tonight, I guess I'll wait till we get to each agenda item, like,
That's fine.
okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Nope, hearing none, we'll,
I would say I'm grateful to Steve for the work he's done for the town. He has made significant impact during his time. This is not a goodbye yet because you're still around. Maintaining the AAA bonding, and we just got an email today that was reaffirmed. I think that's a good thing, and I think as we begin this process of finding a new town manager, I'm committed to ensuring a smooth transition. I'm just going to encourage everyone to continue to give staff some support and to give each other support. We can embrace this moment as a chance to strengthen our community and move forward with some love, compassion, and empathy, caring, and enthusiasm. So with challenge comes opportunity, and I would just wish you all the best.
thank you, Dee. At this point, we'll take new public business. Anyone with new public business in the back, sir? I see a hand, not a face. Your face, yes.
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. I had two questions. I know I've asked about the mill pond being refurbished. The fountains, I don't think I saw the fountains this summer. Are they gone, been out for service? Will they be put
I
back?
think they were installed by Rotary, so the question best to Rotary, what are they doing with their fountains?
Okay, so it's someone else. All right. The other one, because a number of people have asked me about it. They've seen what appears to be homeless people sleeping in their cars in different spots around town. How do we handle that? Or do we handle that? Who do we talk to? How do we do what, if we can be compassionate and for those people who deserve it, how do we be compassionate for them?
Difficult question, but if somebody's sleeping in their car and legally parked, I'd have to defer to the police what the proper procedure would be, and I would think if somebody has a concern, to reach out to the police department and let them take care of it.
My own, as I say, it's not one car one night, it's the same car for a long period of time.
Then it should be reported to the police.
Okay. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, thank you. Mark, you had a question?
Mark Zubrek, 9 Glendale Drive.
Well, sure.
I have more than just a question, but I have 3 questions that I've put together just sitting there right now. Under the circumstances of what's going on with the town manager's position, do we have an interim person assigned to lead this community?
He hasn't left yet, and then the board will discuss that over the next 6 weeks.
Fine, thank you.
We can make an appointment 6 months at a time.
Right, that's fine. The next question I had, and I've been raising this before because I was interested in the proposal, update and proposed business plan for the solar panel project. We haven't heard very much about that, and that has been
We've
going-
heard from the Stephen King 3 times this year during budget season on that project and the monies that will come through, and we'll get an update when the project is complete.
The issue here is not the update that you're talking about. It's an update of the business plan, when will this solar panel be designed, built, and integrated into our system?
Good question.
My
Mr. Manager, do you have a response
Yeah,
to that?
the solar panel is the solar project is in design, but it can't be installed until the landfill project is completed and closed out by the DEP. So the design will be ready to go, but the landfill project is ongoing. And until that's complete, it's premature to guess when we'll be able to put the panels in.
Well, I would appreciate just a timeline of when we're going to be instituting this. That's an important project.
So again, the solar project will come after this landfill project. It's anticipated that the landfill project will be completed this calendar year. At that point, we have to work with the DEP to properly close out the permit, and we can't control the DEP's timeline. But the design will be ready to go, and you can be sure that Mr. Allen and Mr. King will be prepared to provide detailed updates on the project as we
Fine,
move through
thank
the
you.
26
I will
budget.
contact Mr. King and work with him on that. Well, the last one I have on here is the Municipal Light Board. The Municipal Light Board sent out a Danvers Electric 2024 Customer Satisfaction Survey.
Did you respond?
Oh, wait a minute, I haven't got there yet. The issue here, and you know my feeling about electronic communication, and there's a symbol on here to get into the survey. And I am so concerned, well, I'm one of the elderly in town, and you know that. The thing is that we're missing probably 30 to 40% of the residents that may not answer this survey because it's linked to the code on the card and everything else. I went to the electric division and I said, do you know if I can get a copy of the handwritten or hard copy of the survey? They didn't know anything about it. So the thing is, I'm surprised, but I'm also concerned about the 30 or 40% of residents that can be affected by this, and you're not going to get any response to it.
Thank
So-
you. No, that's a good point, thank you. But I went on the website and took the survey before I got the postcard.
You're a better man than
So,
I am.
I got it over with.
Well, the thing is that it needs to be done because that's something that's been brewing for a while, and I've been communicating on that. So just
Well,
as a,
Manager, would just pass on word to Electric Light that, is there a better way on the survey to get it to people's attention?
well, Mr. Bradstreet just whispered in my ear, and successfully, what about people that don't have a computer at all? So that's the reason I'm bringing this up, because
So I think the last statistic I saw was that there are 75 billion smartphones in use in this country, and there's only 336 million people.
right?
So there's so many smartphones out there that people know how to access these things.
Well, I'm playing, elderly, and I just want to get that across because it's not going to give you a complete picture of what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, new business? Please, Coley.
Coley Ray Bickey, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 5. I wasn't planning on, I've got my own topic to talk about, but on the previous topic that was just here, we recently had to do a survey with the Cable Committee that I'm chairman of in order to solicit feedback on Verizon's service to the town. And what we did was we made hard copies of the survey available at the senior center, at the various senior housing places around, and gave them the opportunity to fill it out by hand and asked them to return it to town hall or put it in the Dropbox out front. So we were very sensitive to that issue about not everyone has a computer, not everybody can get around. and we were interested in their feedback, and that worked out really, really well for us. So I offered that up. as an
That's good to know, Coley, thank you.
Town that did that, okay? So if I'm driving 100 miles an hour on Route 128, you could ask me if I'm speeding, and I could tell you I'm not speeding. However, if there's a sign on that roadway that says the speed limit is 65 miles an hour, by definition, I am speeding. I looked into the dictionary since our last meeting, and I looked up the definition of a decibel. And a decibel is defined as a measurement of sound and/or loudness. There are many apps on iPhones today that will do this for you as individuals or other entities. We heard last meeting about sound levels. There's a home in our neighborhood that fellow residents have called 5 times in the last 6 weeks about noise complaints because of the plethora of Airbnb people that are renting that single-family house out multiple times during the month, not just on the weekends. Restaurants have outdoor speakers. Tapley Park on Sunday mornings is playing Little League games with a PA system in use. So my point here is that I believe we need to establish a decibel level definition of what loud is. This will establish a baseline for enforcing entities on how to deal with a noise complaint when one comes in. Therefore, through the chair, I ask that the select board establish a committee to look at this issue. Never being one to raise a problem without potentially being a part of the solution or whatever, I would happily volunteer to chair and/or be a member of that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with new public business? Hearing none, we'll go to number 3, which is the board will meet a candidate for the Board of Health. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking around, I may suggest that we table this until 6:30. The candidate intended to be here tonight. I did not see her yet. But
Okay, to
we
table
will-
this,
So just, yeah, I suggest we wait maybe 15 minutes, come back to this.
yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. The board will consider a request for the naming of town-owned property. Mr. Town Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recreation Director Dave Mountain is making his way to the podium, and I would defer directly to him. This has been a project that he has been at the heart of since the concept was launched, and he has some important guests with him today, but I'll defer to him to introduce who's with him.
Welcome, David.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Board. I come before you tonight, and I'm joined by Nancy Marquis, and behind her is the support of her family. They're not here tonight, but her 2 daughters, Catherine and Jennifer, have been very supportive of this project as well. It wasn't too long ago that I had some conversations with Wayne, and it was right after there was some very thoughtful requests of various residents of what would we want to name after Wayne Marquis. And Steve asked me to speak with Wayne, which I did a couple times, and we had some long conversations and very thoughtful conversations, and Wayne was very appreciative of the different ideas and thoughts that people in the community had. But Wayne really believed and in his heart that the rail trail was a place that he wanted his name associated with. So there isn't much more to say about Wayne Marquis that hasn't already been said. Everyone who knew Wayne personally, worked with him, or was acquainted with him or his family acknowledges his love and dedication to the town of Danvers. He never kept that a secret. From its inception, a bicycle pedestrian trail became a symbolic symbol of a passive recreation area that would benefit scores of residents no matter what their age. From the beginning, Wayne was fortunate enough to have been joined by strong advocates, many women and men who remain committed to this day to the maintenance and beautification of the Danvers Rail Trail. Wayne and supporters knew that it wouldn't happen overnight and that there would be negotiations involving the MBTA, abutters, and over several years and countless meetings, the rail trail took shape mile by mile, and its list of supporters grew. The original 4.3-mile trail has grown in popularity not only in Danvers, but across the North Shore. And I'll add to that, the state. I was recently on vacation down in Dennis, Mass. Had a Danvers T-shirt on. A gentleman come up to me and said, "I know Danvers," and I'm like, "Maybe it's the Falcons, maybe it's Endicott Park." He says, "The Danvers Rail Trail." I'm a runner, I'm a walker, I go up there all the time and use that. You guys have a great resource. So it's out there. I've heard that many times from people. The rail trail connects Danvers, linking to the North Shore, Wenham, Topsfield, Middleton, and the city of Peabody. Over the years, it might have felt as though the concept never would have succeeded, but I think we can all say it has surpassed all our expectations through the hard work of many volunteers and efforts through the town. With the support of the town's Recreation Committee and the Rail Trail Committee, we respectfully request your support and follow our mission to name the trail the Wayne Marquis Memorial Rail Trail. Wayne's family and friends can't think of more of a fitting way to remember his efforts towards its success and love of the town. I want to thank you for your consideration for this request, and I'd be more than glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, David?
No, just that it's a wonderful idea, and he was my wonderful friend, too. And you know, when we started out, nobody was in favor of the rail trail. And now it has become such a popular item for so many people. Safe, joyful, and it's a great idea. Thank you.
Mike?
And thank you, Nancy, for being here.
I think it's a great idea. I live next to the rail trail, so I hear all the people going by and whatnot. It's pleasant sounding, peaceful, everybody's happy. So it's a great thing, and I'm very happy that there's going to be a memorial there for Wayne Marquis. Thank you.
Maureen?
David, thank you very much for putting this together for the Marquis family and for our town. Anybody that knew Wayne loved Wayne, and thank you so much for everything he did.
Dee?
Thank you, Mr. Mountain, for these initiatives. I'm in full support. And to Nancy and the Marquis family, thank you for sharing your husband, dad, brother, friend with the town of Danvers for so long. So he'll be missed, and may he continue to rest in peace. So thank you.
David, the request is to approve the naming of the rail trail.
Correct.
Where are we with the parklet?
Parking?
Parklet.
The parklet. Okay, so you may or may not be aware that there is some activity going on off of Hobart Street. And we have been, through the support of the town manager, we have been developing a piece of abandoned, really non-used area that wasn't being used. Excuse me?
Non-used.
Non-used. And behind those screens and those fences that you see when you drive by, there's some really wonderful things happening. That's part of this concept. So on or near that area of the parklet will be the appropriate signage, and that park will have some tributes to Wayne Marquis in there as well. And we've been working with the landscape architect and working closely with the family, and the natural resource staff have done a tremendous job. We've had cooperation with the Electric Light Division and the Rail Trail Committee. I can't think of anyone who hasn't been fully supportive of this and giving everything to this parklet. That will be part of the rail trail. And so adjacent to that will be the rail trail, and at the rail people, it's the connection of the new and the old. And in that parklet area, there will be acknowledgement of Wayne through some signage in the naming of the rail trail.
When do you foresee groundbreaking, or, sorry, ground's broken, but
The staff's been working really hard on that, and we laid sod today. Our plan is to give it some time to grow. We will open it up, but we will do a dedication, most likely with the town and the board's support, next June,
okay.
and have a ceremony, and we'd like to also, tie in the anniversary of the rail trail at that time as well. So I think we have some time to plan it out and do it appropriately.
Sorry to give away your secrets, but I'm just curious.
Well, it's out there now.
Yes.
We can put it on We are Danvers, or anyone has any questions, feel free to contact with the Recreation or the Town Manager's office.
Thank you. Nancy, did you want to say anything or just be recognized? We appreciate you being here.
I'm just overwhelmed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We truly appreciate Nancy's input and her support. I know not everything has been difficult, but I think those are tears of joy that Nancy has. We've spent some time out there at the park together and see what's going on at the rail trail, and she knows it's a labor of love by the town staff putting this together.
Thank you. What's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I vote that we request, I make a motion that we consider request for the naming of the town-owned property. And I'd like to say it too, to the Marquis Danvers Rail Trail, in honor of Wayne Marquis, our beloved former town manager.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nancy, for coming.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much. Have a good
Nancy.
evening.
Just to be sure there's nobody here from Logan Express. No, that item is scratched. The board will consider a vote to authorize the town manager to act as a signatory for Danvers Stormwater Asset Management Project, CW-13544. Madam Clerk, is this in your realm?
So we're, Sharon Clement from DPW Admin
Oh,
is making her
okay.
way to the
Yes.
microphone as we speak.
I'm sorry. Welcome.
Thank you and good evening to the Select Chair and the members of the board. My name is Sharon Clement. I'm a program engineer with Danvers DPW. Thank you for hearing my request to the Select Board. The town is receiving grant funding from the Mass DEP Clean Water State Revolving Fund Program to perform stormwater asset management analysis. In order to receive the $105,000, the Select Board must vote to authorize the town manager to sign the necessary grant reimbursement forms. We need to execute the contract by October 11th, 2024. The total cost of the project will be $175,000. Mass DEP funding is $105,000 of that funding. The town contribution will amount to $50,000, and the in-kind services $20,000. Funds were approved at the May 20th, 2024 annual town meeting, Article 22. So I ask that you read the authority to file, and we can authorize Steve to sign the appropriate paperwork.
Thank you. So I'll read this, the authority to file. Whereas the town of Danvers, after thorough investigation, has determined that the work activity consisting of Danvers Stormwater Asset Management Project, CW-13544, is both in the public interest and necessary to protect the public health, and that to undertake this activity, it is necessary to apply for assistance. And whereas the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, Mass DEP, and the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, called the Trust, of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, pursuant to Chapter 21 and Chapter 29C of the General Laws of the Commonwealth, Chapter 21 and Chapter 29C, authorized to provide financial assistance to municipalities for the purpose of funding, planning, and construction activities relative to water pollution abatement projects and drinking water projects. And whereas the applicant has examined the provisions of Act, Chapter 21 and Chapter 29C, and believes it to be in the public interest to file a loan application. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town of Danvers Select Board as follows. 1, that the town manager is hereby authorized on behalf of the applicant to file applications and execute agreements for grant and/or loan assistance, as well as furnishing such information, data, and documents pertaining to the applicant for a grant and/or loan that may be required, and otherwise to act as the authorized representative of the applicant in connection with this application. 2, that the purpose of said loans, if awarded, shall be to fund planning activities. 3, that if said award is made, the applicant agrees to pay these costs, which constitute the required applicant's share of the project cost. Sufficient?
Sufficient. Thank you very much.
And we need, once we vote, something signed?
I would sign it.
You would
as
sign it.
clerk, correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions, D?
No, no questions, thank you.
Maureen?
No, thank you, Sharon, very much for that. So the clerk's going to sign?
Yes.
All right, that was going to be my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
No questions, thank you.
David?
Nothing, thank you.
Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. Where are we?
Actually, is this the motion, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay, I just need a second.
Oh, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, none. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll get that to you tomorrow.
Let's see, I think we're going to a public hearing. We're going to continue the public hearing from August 13th, 2024 meeting to be held in the application of Robert Connors, DBA Connors Farm, 30 Valley Road, Robert Connors, owner, for a 7-day entertainment license to operate various entertainment activities. Before we start, and Mr. Flowers goes to the podium, is anyone here that wishes to speak to this tonight? Raise their hand, so I have a sense. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. And it'll be in that order, if we may. Mr. Flowers?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate this opportunity to appear again before this honorable board, town clerk, town manager, residents of Danvers, to continue the conversation with regard to Connors Farm application for a 7-day license. When we were here in August, the board asked that we consider certain actions, which I did bring to Mr. Connors and to the farm, and those actions have been addressed. I'll amplify that a little later. But before we get into those specific actions, I'd like to make a couple of brief introductory comments. Soon after the August 13th meeting, Mr. Connors began receiving numerous inquiries, comments, questions from visitors to the farm, customers, neighbors, friends, about the application, which is fine, that's expected. Many of the inquiries were based upon apparent misinformation, however, and seemed to imply that Connors Farm submitted the application for a 7-day license with the intent of expanding the existing agritainment and agritourism activities at the farm. I want to emphasize tonight that expansion of the activities is not the intent of the farm, and it is not the subject matter of the farm's application for the license. Connors Farm is and always will be an operating farm, growing and offering high-quality produce and related agricultural products. As I noted in August, it's commonly known that many farms across the country have had to embrace agritainment and agritourism activities in order to survive economically. A small privately owned and operated farm simply can't survive economically by selling fruits and vegetables. Supplemental agritainment activities serve the purpose of bringing people to a farm to enjoy the farm, and most importantly, to provide a source of customers to enable the farm to sell its products. The farm applied for the license at the behest of the town, and the farm believes that filing the application serves to display the good faith and respect the farm has for the town and its residents. I ask that the board consider that the application for a license is actually a request that the town will allow the farm to continue the operation that it has maintained for many years. There will be no expansion of agritainment activities. The farm is asking permission to remain open for only 10 nights during October till 11 p.m. on weekdays, on Sunday, October 13th, Columbus Day, and on Thursday, October 31st, Halloween. The farm acknowledges that its activities generate noise and that there are traffic issues associated with the activities. However, we ask you to consider that the noise is also generated by the Topsfield Fair, situated only a mile away from Connors Farm, plus or minus. The fair is open for 11 nights with live entertainment every night. Noise from the fair can be heard at the farm on nights when the farm is closed at 7 p.m., which I would note is every night in September and every night in October.
Mr. Flowers, the
Yes, sir.
Topsfield Fair is not asking for anything from us.
I understand
We're
that.
sticking to Mr. Connor's request for an entertainment license, please.
Yep, I understand that, and thank you for that. While the farm is requesting a license to continue its operations, I also ask you to consider the multiple benefits that the farm provides directly to the town including maintaining a significant amount of green space, approximately 100 acres. The farm generates meals tax revenue to the state, a portion of which is allocated to the town, and the town employs more than 150 people, including many local residents. The farm is dormant and quiet from early November until early June, with only maintenance work being done, which I think we would all agree is done in silence. And with that, I would now like to address the specific concerns that the board made to me in the August meeting. We presented Connors Farm application for its license, as we all know, on the August 13th meeting. The board elected to continue the hearing till tonight, and the board asked the town, the farm rather, to consider the following matters to be presented tonight. First, you asked us to contact the town building inspector with regard to a staging site for access and egress for live music performances. We were asked to meet with the town fire inspector and the police department to arrange walkthroughs for purposes of addressing safety concerns. We're asked to consider issues regarding parking on Valley Road, to record sound decibel readings at various locations and various times during the course of the day and evening. And last, 5, to communicate with the neighbors with regard to concerns raised about the noise generated at the farm. The farm and Mr. Connors has addressed all of these issues. The first, with regard to a staging site for live music entertainment. The town wants to note that it's receptive to the concerns about live music, and I will waive, on behalf of the farm, the request for live music on the premises. So we could modify the license to remove our request for live music performances. The farm believes this action to be a significant indication of the good faith that it extends to the town. The withdrawal of the farm's request for approval of live music entertainment should serve to resolve much of the concern about the potential for excessive sound emanating from live performances. The second point, Mr. Connors met with the town fire inspector, who visited the premises twice since the August 13th meeting. The inspector and Mr. Connors walked the property to ensure that access to safety personnel and vehicles is always maintained as a high priority issue. In short, the dirt road within the farm will not be blocked and is not blocked. It's always accessible to safety personnel. Mr. Patrick Connors has met with the town's police chief, who expressed no reservations with regard to the farm's capacity to handle safety issues. The farm will continue to request police details during the course of the season to assist with the pedestrian crossing and traffic issues. Connors Farm is committed to the safety of its patrons, its staff, and the public in general. The farm has always cooperated with the police department, and it will continue to do so. In that regard, the farm has also asked, and if appropriate, we'll present a formal request down the road, that the town will consider the installation of a lighted crosswalk sign similar to the one on 97 by the rail trail. That might help alleviate a lot of the crossing issue problems. The next issue was the parking on Valley Road. That was a little more difficult. The farm is committed to working with the town to address the parking issues that were, the concerns about parking that were expressed during the August meeting. But it should be noted that Valley Road, Route 35, is a state highway, and the farm has no authority to regulate parking. The farm is committed to doing whatever it can in this regard. It has posted notice on the homepage of its website advising its patrons that parking is not allowed on the road. And the farm will continue to cooperate fully with any police department recommendations or efforts to monitor parking on Valley Road. The fourth issue that you asked us to address was about the noise itself. The farm purchased 2 sound reading machines since the August 13th meeting, in fact, immediately after the August 13th meeting, and it has taken readings at various times and at various locations on the premises. The farm will continue to monitor sound readings during the course of the farm's operations during September and October. Mr. Michael Paniton, the farm's Director of Security, will shortly present a summary of the sound readings that were taken after I finish my next brief comment. In addition to taking and recording sound readings, Mr. Paniton has reached out directly to the neighbors who expressed concerns during the August 13th meeting. On behalf of the farm, Mr. Panitin provided neighbors with access to his personal cell phone in order to express concerns, in order that the neighbors may express concerns they might have during the farm's operating hours. Music volume will be turned down during the nighttime hours, and all reasonable efforts will be made to address and respond to the neighbors' concerns on a prompt and reasonable basis. Now, I'd ask you, Michael, if you wouldn't mind joining us. And Michael will present a summary of the sound readings that he took with the new sound equipment and summarize his interaction with the neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers. Welcome, Michael.
Good evening. Again, my name is Michael Panitin. I handle security at the farm. I have graphs showing the sound readings. I don't know if the board would like to see those. I brought the equipment that we used, that we purchased. We purchased 2 sound meters, as well as a calibration device, so we can calibrate the sound meters every time we use the sound meters. We spent over $900 for all the meters, calibration equipment, and accessories. I don't know how the board wants to address the sound readings. If you'd like explanation, I have.
You could just give us a range of what it says. What does it tell you?
It's. I took the readings personally. I took baseline readings the week before I went out for the sound test. We set up the sound equipment, all the haunt audio equipment, a month before we normally do to get these sound tests done. So I took baseline readings the week before, and I took readings with the actual sound, tracks on Friday the 30th. Taking the readings, I could barely hear the sound from the farm. I could make out, knowing some of the music, some of the tones, I could make some of them out. They didn't really register on the sound meter. The ambient noise was honestly louder than the attraction sounds. And again, I have all the results available for the board and for the neighbors if they'd like to see them.
Thank you. We'll see if the board has questions regarding that as we start to ask questions. But your comment about the ambient noise, that's not unusual to hear. A lot of times the ambient noise from traffic, et cetera, airplanes, et cetera, is louder than what you have on your own property. I've seen that before, so
But
I understand
the
that.
low readings, if you look at the low readings on both days, it doesn't vary very much.
Okay.
From the baseline day to the testing day.
All right. So we'll see questions that the other members have. D, questions for Michael or Mr. Flowers? And we're doing questions only at the moment.
Okay. Questions instead of?
Just questions.
Well, thank you for the presentation. It sounds to me that from the August 13 meeting, there has been some effort from the part of the farm to be a little more responsive to the requests of the board. So that's a good thing. You say you'll be working with the town on parking, and what does that look like? What do you mean by that?
What I said is the town is committed to it's willing to work with the town, and the farm is willing to work with the town in any way that the town deems appropriate. I would think primarily with the police regulation and enforcement of any parking. But the farm itself, I don't see any authority for it to regulate parking on a state highway. But the town is willing to work with, the farm is willing to work with the town in any capacity that the town would request.
Okay. Does the farm has enough parking for its patrons? Because if people are parking on the road, that means maybe they don't have a place to park. Like, do we have enough designated parking offered by the farm? If not, I mean, people have no choice but park on the road.
I can only offer my opinion on that one, sir. The farm has adequate parking. I think when people park on the road, it's human nature. They don't want to take the walk from the end of the parking lot, so they'll park on the road. But the farm does have adequate parking.
And as far as the sound is concerned, can you just elaborate? Was it like daytime readings or nighttime? Because sometimes at night, the sound seems to travel a little more. there's less ambient sounds.
I took the baseline readings,
Into a microphone, please.
I took the baseline readings on Friday and Saturday nights, the week prior, around 6:30 to 7:30 in the evening. The tests were done with the audio at the same time that we start the haunt, at 7 p.m.,
Okay.
to kind of simulate the same situation.
Any reading at 11 p.m.?
No, I didn't stay till 11. The soundtrack lasts about 15 minutes. I stayed for at least 15 minutes at each site.
Okay. But the request for the entertainment license is to go until 11 p.m.
Yes.
And I suspect the neighbors will have more concerns about the sound late at night.
Correct.
Like a little closer to 11 than to 7. So I'll be curious to know what the reading will be like at 11 p.m. because it's quieter, the sound will travel farther, and that's where people are trying to go to bed.
I don't think the sound travels further. I think the sound may be more noticeable because there's no other
Thank you.
ambient noise.
That's correct.
So the sound readings that I took at 7 p.m. would be indicative of what you would experience at 11 p.m. You just wouldn't hear as much, there wouldn't be as much traffic, there wouldn't be as many planes flying.
Okay. Thank you.
David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Andrews and Mr. Panitan, thanks for coming back and thanks for your effort. And I think that you both do a very excellent job of presentation. I do have concerns. As far as the measurement of sound, unless you tell us where you were when you sampled the sound chart to me means nothing, because I am concerned, as I expressed before, that there were some neighbors who said and identified during the public hearing where they lived and what their complaint was about noise. What have you done and presented to measure the noise, the sound, at those locations?
So both the baseline and the sound test for Ms. Wright, the baseline was done on Bridle Spur at the end of the road at Lakeview. The sound test I actually moved to get out from in front of a house that may have been blocking sound. So I positioned myself between two houses in direct line of Ms. Wright's house and the farm. Mr. Silveri at Wenham Road, I positioned myself between his house and the neighboring house to his right, so as not to block the sound with a house. And then Mr. Sauer, I positioned myself in our Cortland orchard so as not to block the sound with the trees that border Locust Street, and it's actually a little bit closer to the sound source than Mr. Sauer's house.
May I ask, were you able to present these findings to the particular neighbors?
I have not yet, no. I have it here,
Well, no. This is a public hearing, and we expect, and I know you've done a lot of work, but it seems to me very important not to make an individual homeowner any more or less important than the Connors Farm, which is very important. But I asked that there be some empirical data, and it seems to me that it should be presented to those neighbors so that if they have a legitimate complaint, they have to speak publicly as to why your findings are not legitimate. That can't be done if the findings are in your briefcase and you haven't shared it with the neighbors. That's my number one concern as far as the sound. The other thing, as Mr. Rybicki suggested tonight, there perhaps should be some attention to sound levels. We have the airport too. It's not only Connors Farm, and we have motorcycles on the street where I live, and when my bedroom window is open, there are sound issues. And there is a way of measuring this. And it doesn't have to be based upon opinion or guesses. And so it seems to me that your results should, for those individual residents, it should be presented to them and let them then come at the next meeting to tell us why your results are illegitimate, because until that is done, I mean, the board may vote and grant your permits tonight. I'm still not able to vote for or against without that step being taken.
I don't see Mr. Silveri and I don't see Mr. Sauer, but I'd be willing to sit with Ms. Wright after the meeting, explain everything that I found on the sound readings, everything that, the graph and my narrative for what I experienced when I was there. And they kind of coincide and they kind of explain each other.
Well, I'm an old lawyer, 56 years, and an old judge, 11 years, and so I am always looking to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak up or shut up.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I'm asking for those neighbors, the same as I'm asking for you. And otherwise, I don't know that the problem has given sufficient attention. And I do respect all of the other, the green space and the employees. I didn't know about that. That's, of course, very important. But under the circumstances, the other thing is, I have heard the suggestion that the town has to solve your parking problem. I suggest that is not really an appropriate way to present it. What off-street parking can the farm produce and provide, and why is that competent and sufficient? And has that been presented to the Danvers Police for occurrence? That can be done. It can be done with a matter of 3 letters in a matter of an hour. So don't leave it up to the town or the police department to do a parking plan for you. That's your job, I think.
If I can address that comment, I don't think, and maybe I wasn't clear enough, we're not asking the town to do the farm's job with parking. The farm has got parking. It's got that
It's
big.
your opinion. We don't even know how many parking spaces there are. You haven't said that.
I
For
don't-
me to know that there's sufficient parking to not be on the public street, which is a concern, it seems very simple. How many spaces do you have? Are they at capacity? And have you run it by the police department? It doesn't seem to me that complicated.
All I can tell you, sir, is that the farm is willing to work with the police department to do that.
It's your job to do it, present it to the police department to make sure that they are comfortable with it, and do it. You're willing to do it, why haven't you done it?
I'll certainly relay that to Mr. Cornish.
And I don't mean to criticize you. I've been at that podium for years and years and years and been confronting, and I'm used to dealing with neighbors who are concerned about changes, about noise, or anything that affects the nest. My nest is across the street. It's very important to me. But we have to pin it down so that there aren't any questions left over, so that the neighbors, if they are going to complain, they have to have a reason. And that's what I would require of them, as I would require it of you. And I only say that under these conditions, I'm not prepared to vote for or against. The rest of the board will vote the way they choose.
All right. And just as an aside, I don't take your comments as personal criticism, sir. I welcome the interaction with the board and with you. With regard to the interaction we've had with the neighbors, I'd like to ask for your, what's the word I want? Your consent to allow Mr. Panetta to explain what he did do when he contacted each of the neighbors beyond the sound issue, with the conversations that he had, et cetera. So if you can give us 2 minutes on that, that would be appreciated.
Are you asking the chair?
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, I am asking
I
the
hope so.
chair.
Thank you, certainly.
Well, simply, I telephoned Ms. Wright, Mr. Sauer, and Mr. Silveri, and I explained to them that we had purchased the equipment, that we were taking baseline sound tests, and we intended to take sound tests with the audio playing to be presented here at the board. I called on my personal cell phone. I explained to them that they now had my personal cell phone number, and moving forward, if they have any concerns, I will be on the property anytime that there's nighttime music playing, anytime that the haunt is taking place. And they should call me directly, and I would be certain to get back to them.
Thank you. Mike, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Sounds like you did a lot of work. When you did your sound test, did you tell me that you played music, and then in those locations that you put your equipment, you were out there and you were reading it? on
Yes,
your-
they started the soundtrack. It was all up and running at 7 o'clock, and I took sound tests at the 3 locations during between 7 and 7:30-ish.
In the evening?
Yes.
Okay. And on the traffic, I'm just going to make an assumption. Would you be running like some no parking tape down the side of the road there to try to give people a clue they shouldn't park there or something like that? Because it's difficult for you since it's a state highway, but some kind of warning in case the detail officer decides to tow a vehicle or not. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. There is currently a new posting on the homepage of the website, and I would suggest to the farm operation that they post signs on their own property to effectively notify patrons when they come in and when they leave. Please remember, there's no parking allowed on the public road, on Valley Road.
Maybe cones, that say no parking, just to try to, some people are going to do it anyway. They're going to try to
Right.
do it anyway. But
I would think they could put cones on their own property, but I can't imagine them being allowed to put cones
Yeah.
on a state highway.
something that should get the average person's, and also, would you be able to put some, because Locust Street's, that section of road's pretty fast road. I can hear people just stepping on the thing from my house on Wenham Street, and they get going pretty good, which has nothing to do with you, but people are crossing the street and whatnot. So is there just some signage, maybe fluorescent signage or something you can put on either end as far back as your property goes, near the roadway to give people a clue to start to slow down?
I'm sure they can do that.
Most people will, but you always have some.
Well, I know what you're talking about. Just this morning when I visited the farm, I came down 97 trying to take a left onto 35. It's pretty tough.
Yeah, they get going. So,
Thank
other
you.
than that, thank you.
Thank you. Maureen?
Thank you for your presentation, coming back again. Looks like you've taken a lot of strides into helping, the town, put our mind at ease. I like how you've contacted the building inspector, the fire inspector again, the fire chief. You communicate with the neighbors, which is very important. We want communication. The police details with the traffic. You did say about removing the live music, right? I do appreciate you buying the equipment and monitoring that. And I think what Select Board Member Bean said about posting, we want safety, right, for people. It's going to be very busy. No parking on either side. Are you allowed to put no parking? If they do park, is the town able to give tickets to people to show that, no parking fines, $50 fine or whatever, that could stop people? But I think you've done everything possible to make me feel more at ease
Thank you.
on your plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to make a comment. We had a number of letters, at least I did, emails, letters from residents touting the benefit of Connors Farm to the community and their support for you. So there are people who are unhappy, there are people who are supportive, so I find that interesting. And we'll go to the public for comments. Ma'am, you wanted to speak? Please introduce yourself and your address.
Thank you again.
No, we're not done yet.
Hi, Suzanne Wright, 3 Brattle Spur. I had a whole speech planned, but in light of, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to say thank you for hearing me to the select
You're
people.
welcome.
I'm sorry, I apologize. You can tell I don't work in a place that does formal meetings. I apologize. I had a whole speech planned about how we still had concerns on our part and my neighbors. However, given the fact that they're going to waive the live music, that was our main concern for that, since there hadn't been any testing of that live music or equipment for that decibel level. So I truly appreciate that. And we were around for the sound check that Mike did, and we did not find that sound level to be objectionable at all. So as long as that's not, if there's not going to be anything added to it as a surprise throughout the holiday season, then I don't anticipate we have any concerns at all. And I really want to thank Connors Farm for listening to its neighbors. And again, we love Connors Farm. We love having them as a neighbor, and nobody wants them to be successful more than we do as well. We just didn't like the noise. So thank you, both Connors Farm and Select people. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. You're welcome. Mark?
Mark Jones, town meeting member, precinct 4, 55 Nichols. On one of the emails that I sent out, I'm not sure you have to speak now. It sounds like things could be resolving themselves, but one thing I didn't put in the email was the fact that if you go up there on a weekday, you'll see 10 to 20 school buses up there from, all over the city of Boston, Roxbury, Dorchester. I just think it's amazing what he does, and I'm so glad that things seem to be resolving themselves, and I look forward to another fun fall at the farm.
Thank you. Ma'am, you wanted to speak? You good? Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Can we have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close public hearing?
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, board members, we've heard from Mr. Flowers, Attorney Flowers, Mike, on the sound things, the work that they've done to work through the issues that we had, and I'm very happy that this process works. When we all sit down and talk and think about it, the process does work. So I would ask for a review of the request, which is from now to August 31st, which is behind us. We can almost scratch that one. Ancient history. This week through October 3rd, they want to be Sunday through Saturday, 8 to 7. That's 8 a.m., 7 p.m. October 6th to the 29th, Sunday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. October 4th through the 26th, which is Fridays and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. is the request. Is that still a request, Mr. Flowers? October 13th, Monday, the holiday weekend, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. sounds reasonable. October 30th and 31st, Wednesday and Thursday, the Halloween holiday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
We were here in August. I had a little back situation yesterday. I mentioned that I had miscounted the days. We are not asking to be open till 11 o'clock on October 30th, just October 31st.
We'll scratch that, and that's the night that got scratched. I know it was 11 and then 10, I didn't okay.
The total was 10 nights that we're asking for permission to open.
Okay. All right.
So what time on the 30th?
On the 30th, it would be 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.? Members, you can make comments or make a motion, your choice.
Mr. Chairman, just as a
Yes.
quick point of order before a motion is made, for the purposes of the motion, I would suggest we leave the times up to August 31st included in the motion. In working with the farm, the thought was that once an established approved schedule was on record, they could come back next year, and if things go smoothly this fall, it could be renewed. If they wanted to make modifications to that, we would have it on file as approved. So even though the date is passed, I think for the purposes of the motion, keeping the date in there gives us a baseline going into next year to look at.
Thank you. And this license, you will need to come back next year to review the results. It's not a given that this will happen again. Thank you. D?
You mean like comments?
Well, you can make comments or make a motion, your choice.
Well, yeah, like I said before, I'm glad that Connors Farm had listened and reached out to the neighbors. On a bigger picture, which may be outside of the scope of the discussion today, like you said, Mr. Chairman, we did receive a lot of emails for and against this. I did spend a lot of time reading about APR. I had no idea what that meant. So I think there might be just a cautionary thing for Connors Farm. There might be some concerns that they're gearing away from the agricultural part of their business into more entertaining part. That's something you may want to keep in mind as we move forward, because there were a lot of exchanges about that shift. I don't know much about, but just a cautionary thing you may want to keep in mind. But I would support
It's a good point to keep in mind, but that's not the purpose of this particular application. It's for entertainment on particular nights.
That's correct.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments?
I'm going to make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
we'll get a motion, then we'll go on.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve Connor's Farm for a 7-day entertainment license with the removal of the live music for the dates provided.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Mike?
I just wanted to mention for the future, I had a crazy idea. Our kids would probably love it. Put the music on the earbuds and don't play it on the property. They did it on a cruise I saw. They call it a silent party. It's pretty funny to watch. I don't know. Just wanted to throw it out there. Silent disco, yeah. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. You made the motion. Did you have any other comments, or were you fine?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, David may have some.
David, no, we'll wait for David.
Dan, just a thought, that there be a condition on the approval that the applicant provide to the Danvers Police Department evidence of the available off-street parking and some evidence that that is sufficient for the number of customers that go there, and subject to the reasonable approval of the Danvers Police Chief. I think that is doable, and I'm just surprised that it has not been presented to us. It is not our job to design the parking.
I think that's a reasonable request, and if the maker of the motion wants to add that the Connors Farm provides a plan of parking to the town.
Okay, so I was the original
You'll
motion person.
add that?
Thank you. I will, David, thank you. I will make the motion to approve, subject to the parking approval by our police department for a 7-day license to operate during those suggested dates with the removal of the live music.
And perhaps the word off-street in front of the
Off-street,
word
I'm sorry,
parking.
off-street parking, yes, thank you, David.
Okay, Mike, you okay with that motion?
Yes.
Okay, any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Thank you, Mr. Flowers. Mike, thanks for coming tonight. You're welcome. We'll see you next year when you reapply. And have a good season.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I suggest we circle back to agenda item number 3?
if that person is here, we'll go
She
back
is
to
here.
item 3. The board will meet a candidate for the Board of Health. Mr. Town Manager?
Start with an apology. I gave Ms. Abbott the wrong time to show up, so she was here right on time for the wrong meeting. And I just want to welcome,
Wrong meeting?
wrong start time. We change that start time from time to time, so it gets a little confusing. But Ms. Abbott has a background, a very impressive background. She had reached out to the town almost 2 years ago to express her desire to volunteer on a board committee. She has a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins University and extensive professional experience in the pharmaceutical field. I'm very excited to be appointing her to the health board. She has met with our health director, and she would be filling the vacancy created by Dr. Joko upon his election to the select board. So as is past practice, this is a town manager appointment, but because as Ms. Abbott is new to service with the town, we invited her in tonight to introduce herself, meet the board, and then probably go home and have dinner.
Hi.
Thank you. Welcome. Any comments you'd like to make?
No, thank you so much for hearing my candidacy. And I have 17, almost 18 years in the biotech and pharmaceutical industry. I have a master's in public health, like Mr. Bartha said, from Johns Hopkins with a concentration in public policy and risk sciences. And I have a background in virology and molecular biology as well.
David, any questions?
Nothing, thank you for your availability to the town. Your credentials seem superb. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Mike?
No, everything looks great. I was really, on the application, it says you worked teaching young girls self-defense, self-esteem, building group at-risk female youth between 6 and 13. That's impressive.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. So, no, I think that's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Dee?
Well, welcome. Thank you for serving. It's a great responsibility. you'll probably have a good time. You'll have two very good board members to work with. My only advice to you will be, even though the town manager is the one appointing you, this is one of those boards where you just have to be your own person. You have a higher level of independence than you might think. So we always say in public health, it's about the 3 Ps, protect, promote, and prevent. I always like to add that 4th P, which is the people. There's no public health without the people.
Yep.
So if it's not for personal gains, if it's not illegal, you go with your conscience and your heart. It's really fulfilling. So good luck, and looking forward to having you do some great things. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Maureen?
Thank you for volunteering. It's very impressive. I like the volunteering at the girls group. That's wonderful. There's also organization Girls Inc. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
My last company, we were just acquired by Regeneron last fall, and we did a number of programs with Girls Inc.
Wonderful
So we did
program.
fundraising activities
Well,
every year for them.
hopefully I'll see you at their breakfast next time. But no, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Sandra, thank you. Welcome. I like to tell all new members that your biggest role is to participate. It's important for the board, if you're appointed, that you're there helping out and participating. So I hope you gave this a lot of thought and you have the time to devote to it.
Absolutely.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The board will consider a vote to adopt the town strategic plan. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was an agenda item back in June. We had staff and consultant walk the board through the final draft of the strategic plan that was developed over a couple years. At that time, 2 of the board members weren't ready to vote on the plan yet, so we gave it the summer and brought it back. Just as by way of background, this was a strategic objective of the boards probably 3 or 4 years ago now. It was funded using a combination of ARPA funds and a smaller appropriation at town meeting totaling close to $200,000. We estimate staff invested probably 750 hours into all of the workshops and surveys. And this number sounds shocking, but based on participation rates, probably about 10,000 hours of residents' time participating in the workshops and the surveys and the focus groups with various stakeholders in town. More recently, the leadership team, a subcommittee of the leadership team volunteered to take this plan and the Resilient Danvers plan and to try to update the performance evaluations for the management team to incorporate aspects of both of those plans to make sure that the things that they're working toward and being measured on each year align with some of the strategic goals of the town. So I haven't had questions or comments since June, so the plan is back for board consideration for adoption tonight.
Maureen, comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's put their time and effort into this. It has been, as Steve said, a lot of hours with the employees, the people in charge, the management, the citizens that helped out. But I truly feel that since our town manager is leaving, I would like to table this and wait.
We're not tabling it.
Okay, well, then I'm not going to vote for it because
That's fine.
I'd rather wait for, let me finish, please. I'd rather wait for the new town manager, when we hire one, to take a look at this.
Mike?
So as I read through the packet, I see a lot of repetition, and I don't mean to be rude, and forgive me if it sounds rude. It just seems like there's a lot of repetition. It seems like we're already doing these things. And I look at it as, is this going to be some kind of other layer of that might get in the way in the future? I don't want it to stop people in town from having to do anything. I don't see the benefit.
Okay, thank you.
you.
David?
I think that it is a very, very, very valuable asset to the town. that we have an enormous investment in it. By the way, Steve, in addition to our town money, you mentioned the source of the funding. What was the initials?
$150,000 was included in the town's ARPA plan, which was the federal stimulus money. And then town meeting appropriated an additional $50,000 to extend the public outreach portion of the project.
And aside from it being an excellent plan, a failure to adopt seems to me to be extremely wasteful, so I certainly approve it. I ask my fellow members to unanimously adopt it so that it gives more incentive to it, something good for the town coming from the board, which will be very, very helpful to our children and our children's children, of which I don't have any, but I care about very much. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Dee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with Mike that there's a lot of things there that are repetitive and some of the things that we're already doing. However, I will detach the town manager from this strategic planning. I don't think that's his. I feel like it's our way to dictate or to inform the upcoming town manager as to where we want him or her to take us. I don't think this is a document for a specific person. I think this is ours as a select board to kind of give some directives to whoever is going to be the town manager as to where we want he or her to go. If we don't give directive, then they're just going to wink it. And I think we need to, as a board, be more assertive and give some clarity into guidelines as to where we want to take our town. So I'll be supporting this. This is not, as I read it twice now, it doesn't appear to me that it's so detailed that we are locking ourselves into something specific per se. This is, to me, like a vision as to how do we want to live together, how do we want to improve our community, how do we want to be welcoming, and things like that. So I'll be in support of it, and I think it would be a mistake for us to just have a new person come on board with no directive and guideline because they'll come and do whatever they want. This will be a starting point for us to work on with whoever is coming to kind of shape where we want policies to go. So I'll be in support of it.
Thank you. And the only thing I would offer and add, this is really a plan that came from the community. We had community input, surveys, questions answered. So it's not just this board, it's a community document. With that, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Adopt this town's
I second.
strategic plan.
Thank you. The second. Any discussion? Hearing none?
If I may, Mr.
Yes, you may.
Chairman, if I would just want to hear from my fellow board members who express concerns, what they think in this document will be detrimental to an upcoming town manager or to us moving forward as a community. Like, how do we go from a no to a yes on a strategic plan like this one, which is very broad and very open-ended? And as Mr. Mike said, we're already doing some of these things, so we want to continue to do some of it and just make it better.
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's fair that when we hire a new town manager, that we already have this in place. I think it's important. We want, remember, transparency, communication. We want their input too. So that's why I felt that we should wait a little while longer. It's not going to be too long. You know, that's my personal opinion. I'm sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, that's okay. Any other comments, Mike?
Yeah, I guess this seems to me, it goes along with the MBTA law, which I'm not a fan of because it's the state telling us how to run our town. I think we have enough committees and people that are involved in town that have so far made a lot of good decisions of how the town is run. And so I don't want to add another layer of control over the townspeople if, in the future, if somehow ends up that way. I think people in town, we have a great town. It's not by accident. A lot of people here are doing an excellent job. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I had one, I'm sorry. I don't want
We're
to-
taking a vote. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
3 to 2. Thank you. Okay. Are we at the main item right now? All right, public hearing will be held on the application of Beaverbrook Woods LLC for relocation of an existing right-of-way easement. Somebody here to speak to this? Oh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Nancy McCann, and I'm here on behalf of Beaverbrook Woods LLC. With
Thank
me-
you, and before we begin,
Yes,
are you aware that there was an on-site visit on the site yesterday with staff and members of this board?
I found out about that this morning, yes.
No, you never heard about the report, the request through the town manager's office and his secretary?
No. I was made aware that that site view took place this morning when I had a meeting with the planning director.
Mr. Town Manager, was there not a request through your office?
Mr. Chairman, the executive assistant in the Land Use and Community Services office and/or Ann Freitas sent out an email to all 5 board members inviting them to meet with the planning director in the field yesterday so that they would be prepared tonight for this meeting. I don't know whether Attorney McCann was included in that email
No.
chain, but the email went from either the town manager's office or the land use office to the 5 board members to meet with Mr. Kelly and Mr. Henry, and I joined as well.
Were you aware that 2 members from this board met with your applicant without going through the town manager or the chair?
I was aware that 3 members of the board have met on site with the applicant.
I'm not aware there were 3 members with the applicant. So it seems to me there were 2 on-site visits. One at 9 a.m. with the chair and staff and the manager. And subsequently, there was another meeting with your client and 2 members of this board that did not go through the town manager, did not go through the chair.
I believe that is probably the case.
That is
yes.
the case.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very perplexing. And it really is a worse case of disrespect for the manager and the chair that I have experienced in my 30-plus years of public service.
I'm sorry, disrespect by whom?
By 2 members of this board and your client.
Well, Mr. Colantoni would be happy to speak to
Not
that.
asking him to speak at this time.
He certainly did not mean any disrespect. It is not unusual for members of boards to meet on site with an applicant, to view the site. I did.
Without going through their chair and proper
Sure.
procedure? They
Yes.
just show up?
Yes. It may be uncommon for your board. It is not uncommon for others. We certainly didn't think it was out of line in any way. I think if there was a meeting that was being held on our application on site, the applicant and myself should have been invited to that meeting, and we were not. We could have provided perhaps some interesting information, answered any questions, and we were certainly willing to attend such a meeting. So we were not advised of that. And there have been meetings with 3 members, not all at once, on the site with the applicant.
proceed with your case, but please refrain from talking about the past decision and where you feel there was mistakes made or misinformation. We want to hear about what your request is today.
I'd be happy to do that because I think that information that you don't want me to speak of has been thoroughly provided to the board. So
Correct.
there's no need for me to discuss that tonight. We are here requesting that the Select Board find that the 50-foot right-of-way that was created by deed reservation in 1915 be relocated by the developer in the areas shown on the information submitted. We do have plans, if it's easier for the board, Mr. Chairman, if you would like us to
Please.
put them up on the easel. Yep. It's a little trickier for me to speak into a microphone and have that, but I will go ahead and do that, but let me finish my initial remarks. The right-of-way in question encumbers 3 of the lots in the Beaverbrook Woods subdivision. The Beaverbrook Woods subdivision is an 8-lot subdivision, and the lots encumbered are lots 5, 6, and 7 are encumbered by this right-of-way. Lots 5 and 6 have been built on. Lot 5 is actually occupied, Lot 6 is under construction. Those homes were able to be placed on the lot even though there is this right-of-way that encumbers those lots. Lot 7, however, is the only lot left in the 8-lot subdivision that has not been built upon, and it is impacted by a 200-foot riverfront area, which further exacerbates the impact of the right-of-way. So we are requesting that the right-of-way be relocated in such a way that we feel is both appropriate, certainly reasonable, and will allow better use of Lot 7, and will also facilitate the ultimate use of the right-of-way by the public. The right-of-way as it currently is located crosses Lot 5, Lot 6, and Lot 7 in such a way that anyone using the right-of-way in its current location would be walking through front yards, backyards, very close to homes. And we could relocate the easement as we've proposed. It would follow the roadway that's been constructed already and would then follow the drainage easement that runs between Lot 5 and Lot 6. The easement, the right-of-way, would end up in approximately the same location as the current right-of-way. It's just a question of how it travels to get there. So if I can approach, I'll describe this better as I'm up by the exhibits. This plan shows the existing right-of-way as it crosses Lot 8, Lot 7, Lot 6, and Lot 5. And it runs right through what would be the front of Lot 7, the back of Lot 6, and a portion of Lot 5. Lot 5 and Lot 6 have been built upon. This was the original subdivision plan. The location of these homes have changed a bit during the course of construction. We're proposing to relocate that easement. Thank you. So rather than coming through here in this way, which is where it is now, the easement would run down the roadway and then connect here and run right in this location. If you see the jog here on Lot 6, and you see where the easement would end up is right here, and you flip again the jog, the easement would end up right here, so it's ending up in about the same place. It's ending up at the stone wall that is the common boundary with the Fox Run open space and Lot 5.
Just a question. Point out Lot 5, and what is the lot to the other side of it? 6. So where is the vacant lot?
7. This is the lot that, again, as I said, we've been able to place houses, even though we have this right-of-way, which is coming through, we've been able to place the houses here. This lot is encumbered by the 200-foot riverfront area, which really comes into this section here. So we can't pull the house forward on
And
lot
Nancy,
7.
say that again, please.
The riverfront area that impacts Lot 7 comes right down to here. The 200-foot riverfront is here. That lot was not, it was not delineated when we were here before, back in 2020. So we've got riverfront here, which prevents this house from being built here. So and the riverfront is all in this section. So we'd have to pull this house forward. We can't pull the house forward because it's sitting on then in the right-of-way. So we're proposing to relocate the easement from running here and ending up here to running here and ending up in the same place. But this allows then a house to be located outside of the riverfront area on Lot 7 and pulled forward into this area where the easement is running through now.
So-
Nancy, does the proposed relocation, Mr. Chairman, may I speak? May I?
Please, go ahead.
Does the proposed relocation essentially create a buildable lot?
It creates a better buildable lot. This,
Better or bigger house?
I guess I'd say both. The impact of the riverfront, and I can show you that on, I have an exhibit of the subdivision plan. The impact of the riverfront really causes there to be a very small triangle. It's literally a triangle. It's 30 by 30?
30 by 30 by 30 triangle is what we could build if the right-of-way easement stayed where it is.
Which would not be a house that would fit well within this subdivision. Is it possible to build a strange-looking house in a 30-30-30 triangle? Sure. Would it fit well in this subdivision? No. But that still doesn't eliminate the problem of users of the right-of-way having to walk through, then the house would be located right here. They'd be walking through the front yard, through the backyard of Lot 6, and ending up here.
Nancy, where would potential people be walking toward? What's at the end of the existing right-of-way?
This is the Fox Run open space that the town already owns.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it. How nice is it?
It's not developed. The town has had this open space for 50 years. And it's just that, it's open space. The rail trail extension is going to happen back here. So conceivably, the town may want to create a connection to the extended rail trail, again, which would be happening back here. There'd be there's a little brook, and then the rail trail is on the other side of that brook. So conceivably, someone might want to walk down this, come down the street, walk to this section here, and the town could develop a trail to come down to the rail trail at some point in the future if the town.
Would it be ADA compliant?
If the town built it, so.
Well, why don't you build it?
We don't own this land.
No, the trail. If you want to move the right-of-way, make it ADA compliant.
Well,
You're not against ADA compliant, are you?
certainly not. Why would I be against ADA compliance? So then you're talking about a trail building this, yes? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? And then, at some point, the town might want to do something on this side, on the town-owned land. We actually put in a cut-through, a trail in through here when John has been working with planning staff, and then he was asked to remove that, so that actually was put in once. But it,
May I just as a point of order, it was put in without consultation with staff, is my understanding, and it didn't appear on any plans, and they were asked to remove the feature, just
that's correct.
for clarification.
Yes, I think that's
Okay.
correct, to show that it could be done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yes.
John Collins, for the record.
You have to go to the microphone, I'm sorry, so people at home can hear you.
Just to address the comments that Mr. Bartha made, what he said is true, except the difference is we constructed when the hill area of the cul-de-sac was still not done. We constructed a switchback, as I call it, to show that a path could be done there with different discussions with people from the town. We also invited the head engineer, Mr. King, and Mr. Henry out to look at it so they could see it. So they did see it, and that switchback was there for, I could be a little off on this, 2 or 3 months.
Can you tell me what a switchback is, please?
Sure. Nancy could show it on a, it's so when you're going down the incline, you walk like this. So then we could, on the rough draft one that we had on the hill, you could actually take a stroller and stroll down it. So when you talk about making it handicap accessible, we were showing that if we were to finish this, that could be done pretty easily with what we had there. It wasn't until months later, when we had a meeting with the planning staff, that they called us in because they're concerned about subdivisions being done since the incident that you had with that other subdivision that had nothing to do. They're concerned about the tripartite agreements and subdivisions being completed. At that meeting, they asked me, John, would you put that back to the way the subdivision was approved? I said, no problem whatsoever. So I assume that you don't want the switchback completed or anything. We'll put it back to the way the subdivision got approved. So we were trying to show that it could be done, and we were trying to be helpful. Again, we weren't trying to be disrespectful, and when they asked us to do it, we did it. You know, my name is on this street, named after my dad for 25 years of service. There's no way that I want to do anything on that street for now or into the future that is going to be bad or affect the town in any negative way at all. I'd be standing at this microphone, and for some of you that know me, you know what I'm about to say is true. It makes our Lot 7 better. There's no argument there. But if it...
I'm sorry, don't talk quite so fast.
I'm sorry. It makes our Lot 7 better. There's no doubt about that. With that said, even if it didn't, I'd be at this microphone because the right thing to do for the town, in my opinion, my engineer's opinion, my lawyer's opinion, and I don't have beginners. I have people that have been doing it 30, 40 years, is to move this right away. So in the future, no matter if it's 6 months from now, a year from now, 50 years from now, the town has an opportunity to use it if they want without having to worry about any problems legal-wise or whatever. If we think where the right-of-way is now, if it's ever going to be usable, forget about the legal, forget about everything. Let's just use some common sense. Look where it's located. Do you think the owners in this subdivision are going to allow people to walk through their front yard, their backyard, and another front yard? It's just kind of crazy when we have the opportunity to do it the right way. So, yes, it makes our lot better, but I think it's just way better for the town. And this has been going on a long time, and I really appreciate the select board's time in looking at it, because I know it's a little bit of an unusual, situation. And the planning department certainly has put a lot of time into this. I don't want to, Mr. Chair, as you said, you don't want to go backwards on some of the stuff, but the planning board back in 2019 suggested that it should be moved and suggested to the select board that they should allow it to be moved. Then, just recently, in the last few months, this planning board voted on a covenant that the planning department wanted for protection of the subdivision to be done on the moving of this easement. That's pretty much an endorsement of this planning board, the same, to have it moved. The select board received a letter from the planning department, from Brian, in favor that this should be moved.
So I'm going to make a comment there.
Yes, sir.
This process has really been disrespectful. You and your attorney had that letter addressed to this board before this board saw it. That I find very troublesome. Not your fault. So that letter has no bearing, and that is not evidence.
Okay, I mean, I can't.
I'm telling you, it's not allowable.
Yeah, okay. All right, I can't, you're the chairman, and I got to respect that.
That's not your fault. I'm telling you that. But that letter was not given to this board, even though it was addressed to this board.
Right.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
If we look at the easements as current and as proposed, is there any compromise to move it midway somewhat, so it's not so close to, I believe it's Lot 5, which is number 14?
It's a great question, and I think Nancy can address that.
Thank
And
you.
just before I turn it over to Nancy, through the chair, I want to say, it's no one's fault about those meetings that took place on that site except mine. I did not know that I should have contacted you first, Mr. Bartha, so I do apologize to the board for that. I was just trying to inform them and let them see it.
Our members should have known.
So.
Thank you.
When I met with Mr. Zacchelli this morning, he did mention that there was a question as to whether the easement could be moved over further away from Lot 5. And I had our engineer look at this today, and when he blew up to a scale this big, what you have already been submitted, I think the easement is more clear, and the answer is yes. The easement can be moved over such that it is 25 feet off of the house that you saw on Lot 5. So there is a drainage easement that currently runs between 5 and 6, and that easterly edge, I'll call it, of the drainage easement is the easterly boundary of the right-of-way, and then the right-of-way goes 50 feet away from the house on Lot 5. That is a different understanding than I think that you had off of the plans were submitted, based on my conversation with Mr. Zacchelli this morning. So if I can approach, I'll show you this plan. So, the existing drainage easement.
Nancy, just hold on a second so I can get over there. I can move.
Here, I can move this over.
No, so everyone can see it.
Microphone's got to follow me. All right, so we have the existing 30-foot drainage easement that is here. And then 20 feet over from that makes up the 50-foot right-of-way. And that gives us enough room to do the switchbacks, should those ever be constructed, that we were talking about. And again, you do the switchbacks to deal with the slope, so that you have ADA compliance. So if we look at the as-built plan of the house that you saw on Lot 5, which is here, we've got 25 feet to the drainage easement, and then the right-of-way goes over from there, 50 feet over from that point. So the closest point is 25 feet. And I think when you were out there looking at the plan on a much smaller scale, it looked like the right-of-way would be right up close to this house, and it's not, it's 25 feet away.
The new proposed right-of-way is 25
Correct.
feet?
Yes. And the actual, should a switchback be constructed in here? That switchback is 32 feet away from the house. It does help with the larger scale.
No, it's still confusing. All right, we'll go to questions from board members. David?
Thank you, Dan. The town owns land which has value. The applicant seeks to achieve from a vote of this board a land interest which has value. And it seems to me that there should be some compensation to the town, because I used to be in this business, it's a long time ago, but building area, footprint, size of something, I remember when we were building the Residence Inn, John, Dick, and I were up there on the edge of the, whatever it is, berm or whatever, with, with a 12-inch ruler, fighting to convince Peter Bryson, you remember that fellow.
I remember him well.
Yeah. And so, land area has value. It increases the value. And it seems to me that you have a lot that's an awkward lot, that you could put a small, ugly house on, and that achieving this modification and getting advantage is taking from the town something that's very good for you, and I think that's really kind of interesting, and I'm wondering what would be fair compensation to the town to go into some open space. I don't know what's ever gonna happen to that land next door, I forget. I remember we talked about it before, and I always kind of held my nose thinking, nothing's ever gonna happen there. It was just like Badlands, you know, in the Old West.
Yep.
So my question is, what's fair compensation to the town in the event that the board chooses to grant this land use benefit to the builder? That's kind of what I think I understand the rest of it. I've seen plans before, and as usual, Nancy, you present things beautifully, so you don't confuse me. Thank you.
I didn't think I would.
Thank you, David. D?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just full disclosure and for clarity, I have a friend that lives in the neighborhood, just for transparency, and I've been to their house a few times. I did meet, I forget your name. So I was at my friend's. I did meet with him prior to any meeting being set up by the town, just so that is clear. It wasn't, it was actually a few weeks ago. As I was there, he came by and then he said, oh, let me show you something, when he was introduced to me as a select board member. So I did see the property and saw the easement. Another thing, just as a point of clarity, Mr. Chairman, if I get reached by a builder, a resident, to see something, I just want to make sure that I'm able to do it without any reprimand. Because I go to people's house all the time, or have addressed people's concerns if they have questions for me. So I just...
Just for clarification, you were with a friend, you were at his area, you looked, that's fine. But to make contact with him without going through the chair or the town manager and having a meeting is not correct. If you want to meet with a developer or something, and remember, when you're not here, you're not a selectman. You're Dita Joker out in the street. But when you're here, you're a select board member, and you have to stay within the parameters. And to represent yourself as a select board member and ask to look at a piece of property is wrong. It has to be condoned by the board, by the chair. But certainly on your own, you can look, but don't say you're a member of the select board and you want to meet. Does that help clarify?
It does. It does help clarify some, but I just want to make sure, because I've met with different people for different issues, not only as a resident of Danvers, but as a select board member. We get invited to things all the time, and I want to make sure that we are able to do those things and meet our residents where they are without having to go to the chair.
As long as you're not promising how you would vote or react.
That is correct. That is correct. So
Keep your mind open and wait till you deliberate.
And I'll always look at the facts, look at all the evidence before I make any decision. But I think I should have the freedom to meet with whoever I choose, as long as I'm transparent.
Yes.
And just open-minded about what decision I'm making.
You're always a select board member out in the public, but you can't make promises and you can't represent the rest of the board.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
You're welcome.
So,
Excuse me.
Dan,
Yes.
while we're on the subject of scheduling meetings and all, I would have been at the official meeting yesterday with you and the planning director, but for Microsoft. Now, I don't know who the rich guy is that owns Microsoft, but he ought to invest a little money in educating old people. I have 328 emails on my Danvers Town David Mills account that I finally retrieved today. So for all the people who were waiting for some response from me from the last 2.5 months, it's not Jobs, who's the one that owns Microsoft? I went to that site a half a dozen times. I almost broke down in tears because I feel like I'm not an idiot, actually. Well, not on everything. And so today, one of our town IT people helped me very much, and it was a whole lot simpler than I thought. I'm not blaming IT, I'm not blaming the system, I'm blaming Microsoft. It stinks. But, so apologies to everybody to whom I probably owe a response. You'll never get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have questions, Steve? Will you?
yes, so I did, so coming back to the easement, I did visit the site. I spoke to the builder. I spoke to the town manager after my meeting with the builder to kind of understand what was happening. I also did look at the package, including all the letters from this time and last time. I'm someone who like to respect precedent. And I know there was a previous board that did not approve the movement of this easement. So in my mind, my thought process was, what changed? What is the difference? And the way I came to my decision was, what changed is it's gone from a plan on a paper to a neighborhood, because people are actually living there now. I do think that moving this easement will be a win-win for the builder. He's gonna have a bigger house. Let's not mince words. He's probably gonna sell it more expensive than he will have otherwise, so he's gonna make a little more money. I don't want the builder to feel like a boogeyman. It's okay to make money. But what I care about the most is the people that are actually gonna live in that house. And I feel that by moving the easement, the builder is gonna make his money and walk away. But there's a family that's gonna live in that house for the next 50 years. And how will they be impacted if we don't move this easement? It will be a problem for that family. And also, I would say by moving it, it will just be a better outcome for the neighborhood. So the other houses will be kind of lined up the same way. So it will be better for the neighborhood. I like David's idea of the builder is gonna make something out of it. What can we as a town get as a compromise that we can put into our open space investment or amelioration? So I'm in favor of this, but I would like to hear from the builder what he can do as Mr. Mills said, town property has value. So what can he do for the town? But it will be a better outcome for both the builder and the residents who live in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see if he wants to respond or wait for the other members.
I think we'll wait for the other members. John was just asking me whether we are dealing with any actual town property. And the answer is no. The right-of-way as it exists now is on subdivision property, not on the town property. But I think what Judge Mills was referring to as far as the property interest of the town has an interest in this right-of-way.
Correct.
And I think that's what he was referring to.
Maureen?
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. You're right. To me, it makes sense. I do have a friend that is the first house on the left, and in my banking profession that I do residential subdivisions, I drive through subdivisions all the time. North Street, by Denny's, everything. So when I looked at it, I did think that the way it was cutting through all those people's properties, it just really didn't make sense. I think this is cleaner and benefits the neighbors. I don't want to see you build a 30 by 30 by 30 house because I think it will look horrible and the neighbors might complain. But I think it's a much better plan. Thank you.
Mike?
I apologize for stepping out of line. It was a last-minute decision to get up there, so I will not make that
You were
decision.
invited to the meeting at 9 o'clock, and you never responded.
I didn't think I could make it. I apologize.
You should have said that. You couldn't make it, but then you made it.
I agree, and I won't make that mistake again.
Thank you.
In light of looking at the property, I thought the paperwork was very clear. I felt like I understood what I was looking at to begin with, and when I went up there and saw it, it makes sense to me to move that over. That switchback seems to be what you'd be given to the town, because if the town decides to connect the rail trail to that area, it's already be set up. So, I mean, it's beautiful neighborhood, so if you add another house in there, you'd be getting good tax money. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. So I agree with Judge Mills, if you will, that this is a piece of land that we have an interest in. We need to develop and maintain our open space, our recreation, find a way to connect to the rail trail as we build out, heading towards Middleton. And as a sign of good faith, if the applicant, your client, can make an offer to us monetarily, I would be happy to support this. But I'm just not going to give up our rights for nothing.
I outlined, and I'm going to ask John to speak to that specific request. I did outline in the information, I think I provided quite a bit of detail of the benefits, not monetary benefits, which seems to be what you're looking for at this point, but there are benefits to the town in relocating this easement. The biggest one being clarifying the rights that the town has, because this easement was created by a deed reservation to an individual. It was not for access to the Fox Run open space. It was just an individual's reservation of a right of access. And whether that really carries forward to the town, I think there is a legal question there, because the town got this.
So do you suggest we pursue that and get a legal opinion, or do you want an answer tonight?
No. What I'm suggesting is that there are benefits to the town other than monetary that are coming about through what we're proposing that do have value, which is creating an easement that's in the right location for those who want to use it, meaning it's not going through the front yards and backyards of people's property. And it's clarifying the existence of the right-of-way for the purpose that the town wants it now, which is access potentially to the Fox Run open space. So there's value to that as well. But I think what I'm hearing
I can't
from...
spend that value. I can't put it into anything tangible.
I don't disagree with you that you can't spend it at Walmart, but there is value there. So you're now being very specific that you're looking for a dollar contribution.
Correct.
And I will ask Mr. Colantoni to speak to that.
So obviously, not my first time at the rodeo. This does not surprise me whatsoever. Nancy doesn't like when I take the mic because I tell you how it is from my heart. I'm very disappointed, Mr. Chair, and the board. Not that that matters to you, but the reason that I'm disappointed is, where were you in 2019? Where were you in 2020? Why at the last minute now, when I've built the houses, when we showed it all to you before, you're asking for the money, when you cost my partner and I and the neighborhood so much sweat and money, it's ridiculous. I'll give you a factual example sitting in the room, because I feel close enough over the last year to do this. Lot 6 is affected big time by the right-of-way. We had 3 different deposits on that lot to build a new house. That project would have been done, that house and that lot, almost 2 years ago. We could not bring those 3 buyers with their deposits past the finish line because of the right-of-way easement problem on the lot. God was good to us to bring Frank and Amy, who had a vision of a house in that lot and loved the neighborhood, where we found a needle in a haystack to be able to build a house that, if you went to the subdivision, you'd see that we're working on now. And the reason that the back wall of that house is slanted is because of the right-of-way easement going through there. I use that for an example. So when this board asks for money now from me, if you had asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2019 when we were here, I would have written you a check before I walk out the room. But this board, because you voted no in 2019, no matter if you believe this or not, a lot of you have so much more experience probably than I do in building. So if you don't understand what I'm about to say, then I'm surprised. We're lucky when we finish these 2 lots if we're going to walk away with any profit at all, because this right-of-way has taken up so much of our time and we haven't been able to finish. All 7 houses, the 6 that are being lived in and the 7th that we're working on right now, are all pre-sold houses. Because of the uniqueness of the neighborhood, I'm building every one. I don't have a pre-sold house on lot 7 because I haven't been able to even market or solicit or here's your 30 by 30 triangle, or here's possibly we might be able to get you a house that looks like the rest. So we don't have any money to give to you. We don't. What we have is still the passion to do this the right way. Because I'm going to tell this board with the greatest respect in the world, I'm building a house on that lot no matter what. I'll be building a house on that lot. So when you ask me for money, Mr. Chair, I ask you, through you to the board, how much money do you expect me to give to you to get a vote tonight to move the right-of-way? I ask you, how much do you want?
That's up to you to make the first offer, because the person that makes the first offer usually loses out in negotiation. So we'll hear from you and see if we're happy with that
So,
number.
Mr. Chair, you've already stated publicly that you believe it's the right thing to do to move that right-of-way with the stipulation of, let's get some stuff we can spend, right?
Put into our open space plan.
Right. Well, first of all, if I give any money, maybe I have some conditions. Why should, if I give money to a connecting path to the rail trail that's supposed to benefit this neighborhood, should the money be going into the open space general fund? Why can't it be kept solely if the path is built from this neighborhood to the rail trail only to benefit these neighbors that have gone through hell because of me having to take so long to do the subdivision because of the right-of-way?
Fair question. but we're still waiting for you to make an offer.
And Mr. Chair, I don't play poker. Maybe you do. I don't. That's
Well, I
why
play chess.
I'd be a bad poker player because, like I said, I wear a heart and sleeve. So I'm not going to make any offer. Like, if you want some money, I don't have it to give, but we do want to vote tonight. So help me out. Like, let's work as a team. Help me out.
So I think the number that was given to make this ADA compliant was $22,000. Is that correct, Mr. Chair, Mr. Manager?
We did receive material from Moore and Cameron suggesting that, but just as a point, the assumptions that are built into that cost assume it's a straight shot down the right-of-way, but I am, for the record, not an engineer. It's probably between a 15 and a 30% grade down that hill, and I think ADA requires a 5% grade. And I don't believe that the cost estimate in the plans provided to the board included switchbacks, which are being shown tonight. So I don't know that the $22,000 would install an ADA ramp. And I just want to, one of the concerns that was raised at the staff level is that putting any sort of infrastructure in the ground now would suggest to the neighborhood that the town has a capital plan and funding in place to make a connection to that open space, which it certainly does not have at this point in time. So staff's recommendation was we have other neighborhoods that would be accessible from Colantoni Drive, and a contribution would allow for those to be explored. There is an existing right-of-way within maybe a half a mile of where we're talking about, a quarter mile where we're talking about, that the town, I think, has had for 40 years.
Mr. Bartlett, thank you for opening that door. I appreciate it. Because we don't believe you're ever going to do a connector rail trail piece out of this neighborhood.
Can I make one more point?
Can I just...
Time out.
There have been several references tonight that the easement encroaches upon lots, but just to be clear, the subdivision that was laid out and approved by the planning board created those lots. So the subdivision was laid out. There are 4 lots that were laid out across the easement. The easement did not traverse the lots. Just, I wanted to clarify that as well for those following.
To help what he just said, we've known the right-of-way's been there the whole time. Totally 100% agree with him. But when we were going for the approvals, it was always discussed doing the right thing to move it. And that's why Conservation, when they voted on Lot 7, voted with the easement right-of-way already moved. So anyway, we're not going to build any switchbacks. We're not going to build any path. That water is under the bridge and gone. We would have done that for you a long time ago. We've wasted so much money because of this right-of-way situation. It's unbelievable. So I think everyone would like this to go away, probably the planning department more than anyone. So we'd love a vote tonight. You know, there's 3 or 4 neighbors that live in the, 3 neighbors here that live in the neighborhood that are present. There's the owner of Lot 6 that when we're finished will be moving in. They're not here just to hear me rattle. They hear me rattle all the time. They hear because they truly care about what's going to happen to this subdivision and what's going to happen with the last lot. So, again, Mr. Chair.
If I may, this is a public hearing. We'll open up to the public now, and then we'll
Okay.
get back to you. Is that all right?
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Bradstreet.
Bill Bradstreet, town meeting member, precinct 1. Meaning no disrespect, but what's being discussed tonight should have been squared away before the developer started building houses, not now when a house is either built or intended to be built, and asking that we do what should have been considered in the very beginning. Again, no disrespect, I'm not an engineer, I don't lay out property, but that's the first thing that came to my mind sitting here listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please?
Nova Samade, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. I agree with Mr. Bradstreet that this definitely should have been dealt with years ago, apparently, but it wasn't. So we're here now, and I personally support the easement if it doesn't actually cause any harm to the town. Like, I don't, if we don't have to do anything to provide this easement, except for just, like, we're not giving up land that we own, we're not doing anything except for providing a better lot, bigger house, more taxes, and possibly a way to get through if that's ever used. I'm not sure what the stall, like why, through you, Mr., like what is the reason why we can't just say, sure, that makes sense?
So back in 2019, the select board at that time heard the request for the change of the easement, and the planning department had a document that was against it, and the board at that time denied it. 4 years later, they're coming back to us asking to reconsider. I'm happy to reconsider and put it on the agenda because it is a different board, and the vote of a board doesn't behold future boards, so that's why we're here now, is to kind of resolve it. Mark, are you scratching your head, or do you have a question?
I haven't scratched my head lately. That's okay. Yes, I have a question, I have a comment. I think Mr. Bradstreet pre-amended my notice, but I have several points that I'd like to make. The right-of-way has been there from day one, and I think everybody agrees to that. The riverfront area, the conservation was always there. This issue has been ongoing for years. It's been progressing piecemeal by piecemeal every step of the way. The developer was able to convince the planning board and the conservation that this is the subdivision that should happen. But the issue of that right-of-way has never been resolved. It's been addressed many times, but everybody said, let's wait until it happens. Now we have homes built, and the right-of-way is right in their backyards, in their front yards. Now, what we're being asked to do is abandon our right-of-way, basically, or reroute it. Well, I have a solution. Let's take lot number 7 and make it a playground for the kids in the neighborhood and use it. And that will be a compensation for all of the issues that are happening on lot 5 and 6. Then you can move your right-of-way. But devote that lot 7, because all this is about the value of the property. If we want to compensate the neighborhood, because that's really what it's about, let's make a playground for the kids in the neighborhood and then have our right-of-way on that same lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Board. My name is Mark Hunter. I am a resident of the neighborhood.
Welcome.
Thank you. So here's my perspective. As Dee mentioned earlier, there are families living there, right? So we have about, currently, myself and my 3 kids and my wife. We have, I want to say, 6 families with 1 on the way. This, to me, is a no-brainer. And so, and I think, and I'm glad to hear that you were able to see what John has talked about. I mean, we're very grateful to John and the development and the community that he's built for not just for my family, but for the other families that are there. But with that said, having a house that doesn't fit the neighborhood doesn't make sense for whoever eventually lives there, but also the rest of the neighbors in the neighborhood, right? Because we all went in there with a certain expectation, and we are citizens of Danvers. I've been a citizen of Danvers for the last 8 years. And so what we're asking the town to do, what I'm asking the town to do, is to look out for your neighbors and move this easement for us. So that house, whatever house that gets developed there matches the rest of the neighborhood. Listen, we would love for a rail trail to be connected one day if the rail trail ever happens. I know my wife and I would help out any way we can if that's something the town ever decided to do. But for the purpose of this conversation, I think what's best for the community, what's best for the neighborhood, is to approve this measure. Because as the young lady mentioned earlier, it doesn't offer any disservice to the town in any possible way. If in fact, it'll be more of a benefit than a disservice. So those are my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Frank Sklar, and I will be moving into the house that's currently being built. And as John alluded to earlier, my house is affected by this easement because the back left corner had to be cut at a 45-degree angle. But John was, my wife and I were very patient with John in coming up with the right plan to make it look like it fit into the neighborhood. We wanted to keep that feel, and we would not like to see at one time down the road where our home that we're spending good money on is available for others to, walk through the front yard, walk through the backyard. It makes sense to move this, and we're fine with having that easement moved so that if there ever is a path that needs to go to the rail trail, be between two homes where it's much more private and it's easier on the residents. I completely concur with everything that Mark said earlier. This is a win-win for the town, too, because what will happen if you build a home, the revenue that you're going to generate from tax dollars in that home would certainly be greater than not having a home there. It's revenue that you're going to incur year after year. It's going to increase over time as property values increase. And just to talk about an earlier comment made by one is a playground for 6 or 7 homes where there might be 3 or 4 families that have children. I think even the families that have children would have to agree that those playgrounds can easily be done at their homes, with their friends, in their backyards. There's no sense in building that. That's completely ludicrous. But we're excited. My wife and I are excited to move to Danvers. We're excited to move into this neighborhood. John has done a tremendous job. He's been very upfront and honest with us through this process. And we know that this easement goes back many, many years. And what may have made sense years and years ago certainly doesn't make sense today. So I ask that I'm excited to move to Danvers, and I'd really love to have that easement moved. Dan, it's nice seeing you again.
Thank you, Frank. I recognize the name right away. Sorry, not the face. It's been that long.
I recognize yours.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Cecil Jones, and I live on Colatoni Drive, and thank you for
Welcome.
hearing me. Thank you. I came here, my wife and I and our 86-year-old mother and father-in-law moved here a year ago, and Danvers has been amazing. So the job is well done from all of you. We love our opportunity to live here. We love the opportunity to grow, and this will be our final home for my in-laws and for my wife and I and our grandchildren. So it's a beautiful location. And I hear different concerns about what should happen there. The one thing I hope that the board and your committee here understands is, yes, the good of all to maybe put some money into a fund. That's important to the community as well, but also to the individuals. Every once in a while, a committee has a chance to do something for people, for those families, for the people who are impacted. And that's a powerful thing that you all have, because it's hard to do something for just 5 or 6 people when you're obligated to the whole community. But it's not wrong. 2 things can be right at the same time. To request $22,000 or maybe more, depending on what the town manager thinks, those dollars are going to go into a pile and they'll go somewhere. Yes, that could be true. But if we stop that tonight, if this goes through and we can start to build and Mr. Colatoni can put a property there, and the gentleman before me said, the tax revenue is going to pass 22,000 a lot quicker than us putting that money into a bucket somewhere that may or may be used in the future. So I don't want to drag the night out. It's late, and I know that, you know, decisions have to be made, but I would just ask you to understand that it's important that we move along. The city isn't going to lose if that is switched over a little bit. It's going to give you an opportunity to do something in the future if need be without impacting, but you're going to make the lives of 4 or 5 families change immediately. You're going to give quality of life to grandchildren, to some of us who are there, and I think you have the opportunity, all of you, to see something that can be done with just your faith in that Mr. Colatani is going to deliver a great community that's going to be part of a great city. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Shannon Wynn. I live at 8 Colatoni Drive, so next to the lot. A playground, you know, I like that idea. I have 3 kids of my own, but I mean, the fact of the matter is the town's not going to make any money off a playground. It will cost the town money. They'll have to maintain the equipment, mulch, things break, things like that. You know, if the easement goes through, then the builder, yes, will be able to build, you know, a bigger, nicer home that will generate more money for the town.
And for the developer.
True. But, you know, and it's true that we all, you know, the easement, we knew that it was there when we bought our lots, but, you know, it makes more sense for everybody to be able to access the rail trail, hopefully, eventually, if the easement goes through, you know, the way that Mr. Colatoni is proposing now. So thank you for considering.
Thank you. We all set with the public? Motion to close the public hearing, please? Oh, I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
I'm not a resident, but I'm.
Where do you live, sir?
I live nearby.
So your name and your address, please. for
My
public
name is
record.
Raymond Ahern. I live at Salem Street in North Andover. I was chairman of the board of the North Shore Community College, and we made decisions. And I would say that if you leave this unresolved, people who live in the town and in the neighborhood will drive by and they'll say, the town is not 100% able to function. What will happen if I have an issue? So I leave you with that. $22,000 opposed to the well-being of every citizen is not even, should not even be a consideration. You should vote for this easement to benefit everyone, including yourselves. You'll be done with it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to close the public hearing first. You can make comment afterwards.
After you close?
Yeah. Motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nancy, you can make comment.
Thank you. One thing I just wanted to point out to make sure that everybody is aware is that, as I said at the beginning, this right-of-way was laid out, it was reserved by Mr. Healy in 1915. It ended up arguably in the town's hands because the estate of Mr. Healy didn't pay his taxes. So the town took the remaining piece of property that Mr. Healy has, the town still owns that land, and got with it, again, arguably, this right-of-way. This was not an easement that was ever laid out for the purpose of providing access to Fox Run open space or for the purpose of providing public access at all. This was an easement reserved by Mr. Healy for himself, and that was the language of the reservation. I reserved for myself, my heirs, my assigns, not my successors. So therein lies kind of the legal question that I mentioned before that can be clarified by this relocation. But it's not as if the town laid out this right-of-way and is now having to give it up. So we're providing an easement that ends up in the same place, that is the same width, that will be worded such that it is for all purposes for which ways are used in the town, so that it's open for the benefit of the public to use. And that's a clarification that has value over the existing right-of-way as it was reserved by Mr. Healy for himself individually in 1915. So there is value there that is significant. And we can argue about whether it should have been taken care of before. It was, in fact, discussed with the planning board before they signed the definitive subdivision plan. The planning board recommended that the right-of-way be relocated. Before they even endorsed the plan, they voted to recommend the relocation. That's something that never made its way to this board back in 2020. But they voted that in 2019. So it's not for lack of trying, but we're now at a point where this needs to hopefully move forward in what is a win-win situation. We certainly think, and I think you've heard from the residents that they think so as well, to allow for this relocation. And it just makes sense. You'll look at the plan. Now, most of you have been out to the property. It simply makes sense. It's not only reasonable, it makes sense to do this, and there is no loss to the town, no loss of rights. In my opinion, I think there is a clarification of the rights over what the town has now. So, again, we're happy to work with the board and hope that that you will vote to allow this relocation to take place.
Thank you. David, any comments?
Yes, thank you. I think that Nancy is quite right in suggesting that there are all kinds of legal entanglements and possible, which goes to mitigate the value of what the town is being asked to release. Now, if I owned that little teeny lot and was able to put up a 1,000 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath home in Danvers, of course, it would be sold for $500,000 in about 3 minutes. If I'm able to enhance my building footprint so that I can put up a 2,800 or 3,200 square foot home with 4 bedrooms and 4 baths in the Danvers market now, Mr. Bennett knows better than I, it's $1 million. So the value to Mr. Colantino for having the opportunity to build the larger house with a larger profit is important. I want him to have that. I want the matter resolved. But it's the town's money. People, and I respect you. I've lived across the street for 56 years, and I've paid my taxes for 56 years. And anything that the town does to not help me, I don't like. But it's not just you, as much as I like you and welcome you to this town. There's 26,000 people, and it's their money, and it's their property that I, am, as a selectman, am being asked to write off on. I'm just asking, what's fair? Real estate people are able to do that calculation. Nancy and I could do that calculation if we had to, and had an hour and an adding machine to do. It's valuable. It's a valuable property right owned by the people of the town of Danvers. With questionable legal history, yes, that reduces the price. But it's still the difference of being able to build a 1,100 square foot home as to a 3,500. The difference is $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000. That's for the completed project. What is the land value that is fairly, just asking, what is fairly attributed to that? I've heard someone mention 22,000 or 18,000 or something tonight. I don't know where that figure came from, because that certainly isn't the figure that I would agree to convey the town's interest for. So it can be calculated on land value. And I don't know what our assessor's office considers a square foot of land. And I'm not in that business anymore. Not in your business. Don't want to be there. You do a great job of it.
I don't know that I want to be either.
Thank you.
But it's the easement value, it's not the fee value, right? So
No,
the
but it's
assessor is not
right
going to give us that.
to build the marketable property and to sell it and to grab the money and put it into CDs. you
And
know.
as my client asked earlier through you, Mr. Chairman,
Nancy,
what's the
please.
board looking? What, as Mr. Colantoni asked earlier, through the chair, what is the board looking for?
There's a number out there. I gave you a number based upon an estimate that's really not accurate, but it's a beginning point.
And that was, just so that we are
I think that was
clear.
Mr. Cameron's number.
Yes. It's about 20,700 is Mr. Cameron's number. It was the difference, and I believe this is what Town Manager Bartha was referring to. The difference between the construction of the right-of-way at its current location, and that amount was $42,394, and the cost of building the, in the new location, which we believe is less than that, it's $22,972. So there's actually a savings to the town of about $20,000. That's the differential. That's, I think, where the number that Mr. Bartha came up with, that's where it's coming from. It's the differential, but it actually works the other way, in that the town.
Are you offering 44,000? Is that what I'm hearing?
No. No, took that backwards again. The savings to the town of the relocation of the easement and the cost of construction, the town is actually saving $20,000.
Just again,
Yep.
I don't know that the board needs to tie itself to any of those
Yep.
numbers, but for the record and for clarification, the relocated right-of-way path assumes an 8-foot ADA compliant path that goes straight down a 15 to 30% grade, which would be 3 times out of ADA compliance. It would require switchbacks, and the calculation from the engineer did not assume that. So I don't think that the board needs to tie itself to that, but I just want to clarify. I think that engineering staff with the town would strongly dispute that it is cheaper to build an ADA path on the proposed easement than the existing easement based on grade, because we would be tied to a 5% grade to do that.
And I am not an engineer either. Our engineer couldn't be here, although he may be coming in at any moment. He was here earlier and had to leave. He made educated assumptions in coming up with those figures based on his 20-plus years of experience as an engineer, and doing this often. And he felt those numbers were accurate, that he gave, taking into consideration the whole. And we can dispute this, and I don't know that there's value to disputing that.
There's no value. I think we're at a point now, I want to hear comments from the rest of the board. Michael?
Is it legal for us to do this? Ask for money at this stage of the game?
Yes, sir.
It is? I think that some of the grumblings I hear around, just because I'm in the business, I don't build neighborhoods, but I built some houses, and people don't want to build in town because they feel like they're, going through some rough, red tape. Now, with that said, I understand we want quality neighborhoods built, and we want safe areas, and we want good-looking, valuable places. So I understand the rules and regulations. I think this neighborhood is doing quite well. It looks beautiful. I don't know the builder. I don't know the attorney. I have no vested interest in any of this, except for what is good for the town. Is there going to be, ADA accessible trail going in there? I don't know. There's no trail now. I don't know. I guess I just think that, making the neighborhood complete with the house that looks correct seems to make sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Dee?
Thank you. Like everyone said, I wish this was taken care of years ago, but we're here now. It made sense to me when I walked the site. I think we should vote tonight to move it. What can the builder do as a good faith? And I know you've said you've lost a lot of money for the town. I mean, I think that's where we are. But I think this is something that we should vote on tonight. And I'll be in favor of moving the easement to the new location. Thank you.
With a good faith donation?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Maureen?
Excuse me, thank you. We want to encourage development. We want people to come here. We want people to build. We want people to feel welcome here in Danvers, okay? We want to preserve the properties, the values in town. I feel from hearing the neighbors, to me, I wouldn't want the easement going through my front and through my back. And I'm sorry, I forget your name, but, to have the builder do whatever he had to do, the slope and the angle and all that too. I know the winds, those are my friends right there that I was talking about. I have no connections with the builder or anything. I know that he's built in this community. He tries to do things right. That's what we want. Communication, transparency. We want good development, right? We want to have that taxpayers for our base for taxes. I think it's pretty unfair at this point, from hearing since 2019, now all of a sudden the town's asking for money. I think that's wrong. I did read through your packet, Nancy, and I commend you for putting a lot of material that was the state of Henry, or whatever his name was. I did read that. And it was a tax taking from the town because of non-payment of real estate taxes. I would vote in favor of this with no consideration from the builder. I know, being in the business with banking, that if you've got a project and it's taken you this long, it's costing these people money. We want builders to come here and build nice houses, so I'm in favor of moving the easement with no consideration.
Thank you. So, before I ask for a motion, Nancy, I'd give the builder the opportunity, if he wants to, comply with a request for a monetary donation or not.
So, since we're being very creative here tonight, and the poker game continues, I'm going to give you a very unique offer that I hope the board respects, because I've been thinking and thinking and thinking of something that might be a win-win, that might not be as a knife in me so quickly. So what would happen if we gave the town of Danvers 0.5% of whatever the gross sale is of the property? So if it's sold at $1 million, do the math. If it's sold at $1.5 million, do the math. You'd get 0.5% of the gross sale of what we build there.
So obviously, you've done your math pretty quick, so what's 0.5% of $1 million?
Well, 5% of 100,000. Half point, 100,000. Do it out.
Maureen, you're the mortgage person.
I know, you're going to tell me, I knew it, right?
I just want to see the figure come from the board. But that's my suggestion that I thought might be a nice thing.
No,
So,
we can consider that.
0.5%?
0.5
yeah, 0.5%.
So,
on a million.
what's that, 5,000?
Oh, 1% of a million is 10,000.
Yeah, so.
0.5% would be 5,000.
5,000, Dan, yeah.
And again, to be honest with the board, and I think the neighbors that are here would agree.
So let me ask you this, what's the average sale price of those homes?
That's what I was just going to say. With the neighbors that are here, I think everyone would agree that, we're probably looking at a 1.3 to 1.5 sale. Everyone think that about right? More. Yeah, I mean, possibly more, yeah, but
Right, looking at what's available in town right now, 10 homes for sale, single families, only 4 are under 776, the rest of a million plus to 2.5.
you can't do a new construction house right now. Let's use the example that was given, 4 bedrooms, let's say 3,000 square feet with a 2-car garage attached. You can't sell that for $1 million anymore. Like, that has to be sold.
339 a square foot?
Say that again?
339 a square foot or more?
More.
So 1.3 would be 6,500, right? Or he said 1 would be at the 5,000.
All right, so board members, he's offering 0.5% of the sale price, not his profit, the sale price.
Yes, gross, yep.
I make a motion, we accept that.
D?
Yes,
comment?
I will. And I commend the builder for doing it and for all he's doing, and thanks to the neighbors. Like I said, just want a good fit, and I think that will do it for me.
Is that a motion and a
No,
second?
no motions yet. Dee's making comment, and then we'll go to the motion. I mean, Maureen is willing to, but it wasn't. Sorry.
Okay.
I know, it's getting late. David?
Dan, I could not hear the figure that was being.
0.5% of the gross sale price of the new construction. It's $1 million plus.
And on the gross sales price, and what would be, for example, $1 million? I mean, yeah, $1 million.
5,000.
5,000? No, that was, I would not
Okay.
support or vote for that, thank you. I think it's very ingenious to be thinking along these terms, but no, to me, I'm old-fashioned. If I had a land that I could build 1,100 feet of house on, as opposed to a piece of land that I could build 3,400, a house with 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms and a 3-car garage, holy smokes. I would pay a couple, $200,000 or $300,000 for that land value. So let's.
So we have his offer, and last chance to ante
And I
up.
don't think it's fair also to put this into like a public
No,
bidding tonight.
well-
I say, so come back with something and with some scientific, reasonable, comparable values of what is a lot of land worth supporting such and such house as opposed to such and such house. And it seems to me that the real estate people know how to do that. I don't anymore, but it's
Mr.
a
Chair.
lot more than $5,000.
If I may ask a question. So a motion was made and it was second. So
No,
just-
no motion made yet, no second. Just still conversation.
Okay. Is it possible to hear through the chair from the rest of the board members on my idea?
Well, they just did. David's not in favor. Dee says he could agree to that, and I think Maureen says as well. So right now you're 2 to 1.
What about Mr. Bean?
I haven't heard from him yet.
That's what I was asking. I wasn't sure
Well,
if.
I'm going through.
Okay, I'm
right,
sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I don't go in line, I bounce around to give
Okay.
everybody equal opportunity. Mike, it's your turn.
I'd accept your proposal.
So I'll make a motion.
Before the motion, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, if I may, and I just the way I'm looking at this, like I said before, I see it as a win-win. Because in this case, like I say, it's not on paper anymore. We have a neighborhood. We have people that are living there. Almost all of them are here supporting this. The developer will make some money, as Mr. Mill said, but he's going to make it and leave. And there are people that are going to live there for 50 years, 70 years, 100 years. Those are the people that I care about the most. And that person moving in Lot 7 is the person that I want to take care of. And that's why I'm in support of it. Plus, that Lot 7 sold at $1 million, we will probably get to $22,000 in property tax a few years after. So I see this as a win-win. It should have been taken care way before. It did
You're
not.
starting to
Yeah.
repeat yourself. We've been down that road.
Thank you.
So I want a motion, please.
All right, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we propose that the easement, the vote to move the easement at a cost of 0.5% from the developer gross sales price of the sale of that particular house. And I make that motion tonight, and I think it's generous. I want to say that it's for the neighbors. You know, I think the...
What lot number is that?
This would be lot number 7.
7, include that in the
All right,
motion.
so let me vote to allow the change to lot number 7
Oh,
as
with the easement.
with the easement presented for a cost of the gross sales price of the house of 0.5%
On lot 7.
on lot 7, please.
Is there a second?
Before I second, Mr. Chairman, could we add that the funds will go,
Yeah.
do we need to add in the motion that the funds will go in the, to improve open space? I don't know if there's a fund.
You can add that.
So the funds will.
If the maker wants to add
specifically
that, yeah.
go to whatever account we have to use for open space
Open
within the
space.
town.
And Maureen,
I'll
and do you
redo it.
want to say that it's the
Open.
easement as proposed?
Yes, so I'd like to make the motion to vote as the easement as proposed for the developer to do gross 5.5% of his sale to the open space. The
Okay.
funds would go to the open.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Opposed.
4-1. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for all your time.
Well, thank you for your time. This is a real exercise in government. Thank you. Frank Schuyler. Frank, good to see you. When did you move in?
The meeting is still on, right?
Listen, just give me a buzz sometime. Not the next 2 weeks, but just give me a buzz.
Yeah, we're still
Thank you.
We got old time. Thanks. Towards the end of the month.
Thank you,
All right,
Frank. Welcome
likewise.
to
Goodbye.
Deal with the fallout,
Like-
right?
Welcome to Danvers.
So we're still in meeting, sir.
Up in the air, yeah. I'll meet with him next week. Thank you. Appreciate it, John. Good luck.
Good luck.
You now have an instrument that has.
Precedent, it's precedent.
Yes, because not only did you.
Okay.
You also created.
Oh, you can't imagine how disappointed I was.
My father was military for 25 years, so I know to go through the ranks properly, and it's the first time in all the towns I've been in.
Not on me.
That's the way to do that, so.
What do you want? You want to email me?
Give me a call. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay. Huh?
We're still live.
Yeah, we're still live. Okay.
Go, all righty.
Mr.
Okay, let's
Manager.
go. I'm getting tired.
I know it.
By the way, I used to work.
All right, sir.
Where are we next? Where are we?
The town manager. All right, can I have a motion on the consent calendar, please?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let me just take a look at this. Okey dokey, fine. It's got the right date here, okay.
Send me.
Consent calendar's approved.
He wants to finish the meeting. Nice to meet you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Tough guys and sympathy and it went back and forth.
That's government, and everybody walks away happy.
You know, I enjoy something like this almost more than anything else I could see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Steve, anything left on updates?
No,
The only thing half as good is having a traffic ticket and spending all day listening to court.
Pay the $75, be done with it.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We did approve this consent calendar.
Yes.
We're going to go to closing comments, et cetera. I will not be at the next meeting. David, would you chair the next meeting, please? So that's on the 17th of September at 6 o'clock. Closing comments, Dee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What did I did, just wanted to bring something up, Mr. Chairman. I did watch the committee that was put together to look at our town charter.
Yeah, so I think that should be an agenda item for discussion.
That was going to be my request,
so
if we
can
could
put that on a future agenda.
have that as an agenda item for
Yep.
discussion. But I also like to comment of the fact that there were 3 of the, and I somehow missed the invitation, so I wasn't aware that maybe I was away. I
There's
didn't
an,
miss the
there's
invitation.
an email that
Yeah, I did not see that, so I was unable to attend.
you can still send in written comment.
I would actually suggest that we have it as an agenda item and maybe discuss the direction of some of the things as a board. It just seemed a little disjointed when every board member was giving their own feelings.
It was
or-
not a consensus from the board, correct. So we need to discuss it, and if we have a consensus, we can send it along.
I think that would have been better. So
Okay.
the other comment I have is just school started and wishing all the kids good. I think this is one of the first time that they're having a normal, quote-unquote, start of the school since 2020. So wishing all the kids a good school year. Thank you.
Thank you. David, comments?
Nothing,
Close?
thank you.
Mike?
I hope it was a nice spirited view for everybody tonight on TV. No, that's
They
it.
haven't clicked out yet? I
Yeah,
don't
if they
know.
haven't fallen asleep. No, thank you.
Thank you. Maureen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. I had the chance, it was very wonderful to, Dee and I toured the schools with Hayden and Leaf and some of the town employees. It was really nice to see. Let me tell you, the time, the effort, the passion that these guys had to keep our schools good, safe for the kids. It's unbelievable. It was really wonderful. Dee and I talked about like doing more things like that. So I think that's really good. I wanted to welcome all the kids back to school. I would have liked to have been able to chair the next meeting. It could be a learning curve for me, but you chose David instead, Mr. Chairman.
You
That's
made a
okay.
mistake yesterday, otherwise you would have.
That wasn't yesterday, and there's no mistake made. However, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this can maybe come up with discussion, as I said, I wish our town manager the best of luck. However, I think, and maybe we needed to take this under advisement, and I wanted to have an executive session about this, but I think at this point in time, with Steve's departure, he hasn't left yet, which I know you're going to say, Dan, but I think for that we should possibly freeze any management positions at this time or any reorganizations until we look and search for a new town manager. I think it's would be in our best interest to do that or propose that, to make a motion if I have to or whatever, what needs to be done, Mr. Chairman. I look for your guidance for that. But when we hire this new town manager, we want this town manager to feel welcome, build their own team. So at this point, I don't think, I would like support from our fellow board members. We can talk about it, about freezing, the management positions, department reorganizations, and then, we still need to talk about looking for a interim town manager at this point when Steve goes. I've been trying to get a hold of you. I called you twice today. You didn't pick up, but that's okay. You're busy. You know, do we also, for the interim town manager, do we look inside, do we look outside? There's a lot of work that we're gonna need to do. Do we maybe have Madam Clerk, you know, be the interim town manager for the time, since she's always here, if she wanted to do that? She's here, she knows about the town. When anybody has a problem, where do they go? They go to the town clerk's office, right? So, I don't know, just some.
No, all good thoughts. We started the process tonight by asking the manager to get a recruitment company for us, so we can sit down and start talking about those issues.
Yeah, and I think it was good that the clerk was signing that agreement. I think at this point in time, you know, and we need.
For the record, she's signing the acknowledgement of
Oh,
the
the
agreement.
acknowledge-
State law requires the chief executive to sign the documents, so I'll do that until I'm gone. And then certainly the next person will have a second vote to be authorized to sign those documents. Just
Right.
for clarification, thank you.
Okay.
The document, I think the document I'm looking to sign is the one
one-
just that certifies that
Correct.
that was read. That's not
Correct.
your document
I'm
to
just
sign.
clarifying based
I'm-
on what was just said.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
because, well, yeah, so that's what I would like Mr. Bennett to have this board, you know, we're gonna be doing a lot of work.
Yes.
So, those are my thoughts.
Okay.
I wanted to say it in public. And I guess people, stay tuned, Danvers.
That's
You
right.
know, thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Everybody all set? So please, when you see a vet, thank them for their service. And good night, Danvers.
Thank you, Dan.
God bless.
Good night, Mike.